and miles away. Sound crazy? The crazy thing is, this never ends. Call my office now. If we take you as a client, I guarantee we'll cancel your timeshare or you'll pay nothing.
Call for your free information kit. Call 800-462-3333. That's 800-462-3333. 800-462-3333.
.602. Good morning from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I'm Robert Walsh. After winning back-to-back Super Bowls, including 3 in the last 5 years, head coach Andy Reid confirmed that he would be back for his 12th season in Kansas City to go for 3 in a row. No team has ever done that, winning 3 Super Bowls in a row. The Cowboys are expected to hire their defensive coordinator, Mike Zimmer. He is the third winningest head coach in Vikings history and long respected for his defensive prowess. A big hire for Dallas. Zimmer previously coached in Dallas from 1994 to 2006. Pittsburgh making some moves yesterday to make some much-needed cap space, releasing quarterback Mitch Trubisky, offensive lineman Chuks Okafor, and punter Presley Harvin. The moves that make about $12 million for Pittsburgh when considering top 51 roster rules. The Steelers are still about $7.5 million over the cap. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Tuesday morning on Ramon, Kayla, and Will is off and running. It was snowing last night on the first day of the NFL offseason. We're here, ladies and gentlemen, 24 hours into the NFL offseason. Yes, that really did happen. And yes, we really have no football to watch until November. But you've come to the right place. Not November, September. What am I talking about? That's Ramon Foster, Kayla Anderson, Robert Walsh, our producer. I'm Will Bowling. RKW is brewed up by the best coffee in Nashville, which I clearly need another cup of this morning. What's going on? Good morning.
Not much. Yeah, snow this morning. Got up to bring my mom to the airport. She's been visiting from Spokane, and lo and behold, the ice and snow was on my car. Now, it had melted for the most part, but I'm thinking, oh my goodness, that kind of came out of the blue. I guess I didn't look at the weather report.
I saw it yesterday. It was supposed to happen. I'm somewhat shocked because it was raining. Yeah, it was raining all day. I was like, I don't know how this is going to settle down on us. But it did. West Tennessee, you and I were talking about this earlier. They got a good bit of snow, the Memphis area, and I think that's where it came from. Either way, I'm just glad we are not stranded and stuck in the house again.
The flakes were massive.
Really?
When they were falling last night. It was like 10 o'clock. They were the biggest snowflakes I have ever seen. Not even close.
Wow.
Really?
It looked like somebody was really bad at paper mache and just was throwing little
Crumbles.
things of paper.
Yeah. That's interesting.
It is. I had no idea it started snowing that late last night. I went to bed earlier, too. I'm still catching up from Thursday and Friday of last week and everything, Super Bowl. But, yeah, I'm just glad it didn't stick. I heard a bunch of ice falling off my truck this morning. I was like, do I have a rat in my truck or something? Because I just kept hearing the flakes fall off the back of the truck. I probably should have scraped it, but I had no idea I had a layer of ice on the back of my truck anyway.
There you go. So anyway, we're usually your way
yeah.
to figure out what the weather is in the morning because we're the first ones up and around in it. So
yeah.
We get to warn everybody.
We do. But it was safe coming in. I saw some people this morning that was just driving super fast coming into work. I was like, hey, I know we all got to get to work, but you ain't that excited to get to work this morning, okay? Like, you're not really that excited to get to work this morning, okay? Unless it's big payday or something like that. And that ain't today for most folks, so either way.
Gotta wait till the end of the week for that.
So how was the first day of the off season for everyone? Any new hobbies we picked up, learned? I cooked a new meal.
You did?
Okay.
Made a chicken gnocchi. It was very good.
Wait, a gnocchi?
Yeah, like gnocchi, like pasta.
I don't think. Okay, so I don't ever hear of it like that.
Yeah, gnocchi, however you. The first time I ever heard or had it was in Pittsburgh. They love pasta up there, like potato.
It's like a potato base. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Gotcha. Okay.
It's good in soups, though. Golly, it's good in soup.
I had gone a week and a half without cooking, so I finally remedied that last night.
Doesn't it always feel good to cook? Like my mom and I made a taco salad for us and Travis, and it was so good. There's something different about like a meal that's already prepped for you, even a restaurant. While I love going to restaurants, like there's something about knowing what you're exactly putting in your food.
It is. I totally agree with you on that one. There's nothing like resetting and cooking a home cooked meal. And this weekend was the same thing. Of course, we were busy somewhat, and then Super Bowl food was there and everything, and I was just like...
Yes, it was.
Last night, I had salmon and broccoli, and that was so refreshing.
That's so good.
So refreshing and good. And I also made a creed to myself to get back on my water intake. I went home yesterday with almost a half-full bottle of water, and I was upset with myself. I said, I got to be better than that. I can't be doing that.
Got to finish that thing in a 4-hour show.
Have to at this point. First day off season.
It's kind of weird.
It's I don't know. It makes me question a lot of the NFL after this one. I think,
okay,
because of Brock. I'm a Brock Purdy fan just because of his story, and of course seeing that he can play no matter what round. But it's also it begs the question. I was listening again to the Chad Brinker conversation, and he said something super unique. I'm not sure if we're going to get to that, but he said you need to be drafting a quarterback every 2 to 3 years. And that just it hit the conversation that we had yesterday as far as Will saying, you keep drafting one till you get one. And I was just like, geez, it really is that serious. San Francisco, that's probably one of the biggest questions I have was them losing the Super Bowl. That's all I had a conversation on with my Pittsburgh pod that I does. Now, it's confusing. That's just what it's confusing that you say you got probably one of the best teams. And Bird, I'm gonna bring you in here, but Baltimore got the got the 2-time MVP. Heck, we even look at Aaron Rodgers. How many times has Aaron Rodgers won the MVP? Like 3-4 times.
A lot.
And he's got 1 ring.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you build a team that's going to compete and win the Super Bowl?
Exactly the way they did, and don't muff a punt.
And don't muff a punt.
Yeah.
So that ain't
Even though I didn't muff it, it hit a foot.
It hit
but
a foot.
I mean,
hit a foot.
You just have no margin for error.
You have no margin for error.
Especially when you're playing Kansas City.
I know, and I just can't get over the fact that, San Francisco was probably the better team on paper. They were.
It was.
They're favored by 1.5.
Yeah.
And still lost.
Mm-hmm.
And still lost to Patrick. Jeez.
That's got to be frustrating for the Niners too. Like you, if you're Kyle Shanahan and those guys that have been there for a minute with this team around them, like just knowing again, you went through that entire season, blood, sweat, tears, what every player goes through, but then you reach the end and you have every opportunity. Yeah. Like you said, you're favored in the game to win it. Like that feeling, Ramon. I mean, you've kind of had a experience with it. Like I just don't know. I don't know how I as a person would handle it. I'd have to be away from football for at least like a small bit. I couldn't even watch like anything around it for a minute to be back into a football mode if I were a player.
That's where I was.
Yeah.
That's where I was. I couldn't stand football for like a month or so. I could not. Because I didn't want to watch it. It took me years to actually watch the Super Bowl that I played in.
Wow.
Years. Just because it's so much so fast and then it just ends.
I get it.
Headlines yesterday, Andy Reid and Travis Kelce will both be back this upcoming season, unfortunately, for the rest of the AFC. This was the longest Super Bowl of all time and now goes down as the most watched program in television history, which we predicted before the Super Bowl, and it did cross the number we predicted as well. So Nielsen set a record 202.4 million watched at least part of the game across all networks. That is a 10% jump over last year's figure of 183.6 million, and that includes CBS, Nickelodeon, and Univision, plus streaming on Paramount Plus, as well as the NFL's digital platforms. The number we projected was that this would be the first Super Bowl over 120 million on the major linear channel that it is viewed on, and it was that as well. 120 million on the dot for CBS. The network's previous mark for its most watched Super Bowl was 112.34 million for Broncos and Panthers in 2016.
Can we break down how many more females / Swifties, and I'm not joking, I'm really not joking on this matter, tuned in to just catch a glimpse of her? And I know people are sick of the whole Taylor Swift thing, but I'm telling you, like, I've read so many articles where little girls are watching football with their dads now. And just, maybe the girlfriends or the wives.
Yeah.
And you wonder if there's even a million of those folks that watched more because of her.
Because of her.
That number is not available at this time.
I know. I would love that if they broke that down somehow. I know you
Final
couldn't really.
Nielsen data is available today
Okay.
on that.
Okay.
It's just impressive because it's not like anybody just sits and watches this by themselves. It's not like everyone is uniquely at their own home watching this. People do large gatherings, and this number is still massive. That's what's impressive to me.
I did that one time in college.
A large gathering.
Well, I did the first half at a large gathering, and I got annoyed, so I just went upstairs. I was also living in a fraternity house, so I was like, okay, I'm annoyed of this. I'm just going to go upstairs and watch
that should be annoying in itself right there.
What?
Living in a fraternity house.
No, it wasn't bad. It was
wasn't
fun.
bad? Okay.
I
So my
liked
best
living
years
in
of
a
college.
sorority, too.
Did you?
Yeah.
I don't know if I could do that. I love my personal space too much.
I think the cleanliness is vastly different between living in a fraternity house to a sorority house, but it's okay. I was like, wait, you wash your sheets?
Yeah.
At one point during college. There's just the realizations you make when your brain is not fully developed and you're like a 20-year-old male.
Yeah.
Just the things that you should do like weekly or bi-weekly. I was like, wait, I'd have to wash my towels how much? You're washing yourself, so like, shouldn't they be clean? No.
No.
Okay.
No, you got to hang them up.
I know that now.
Yeah.
As long as you hang them up,
Yeah,
they're clean.
exactly. See, that's the way your non-fully developed brain works when you're 21.
Wait, so that's not true?
615-737-1045. Coming up this morning, we will talk with Austin Price of VolQuest an hour early today at 7:20 as he will be in court at 8:20 covering Tennessee versus the NCAA. We'll get his take on what he expects to happen today and his strongest choice to replace Jerry Mack, running backs coach for Tennessee, who is headed to the Jacksonville Jaguars. We'll do that at 7:20. We'll listen a little bit to the OTP conversation Ramon, Titans Radio, and the entire crew had with Chad Brinker, who got a promotion this offseason and also gave us a little bit of insight into one part of free agency the Titans want to avoid, which was particularly interesting in a very good conversation. We'll do that at 8:20. Ron Slay at 9:20. Your phone calls throughout the morning at 615-737-1045. But we had the headlines going into Tennessee's injunction hearing. Why Adam Sparks told us yesterday he thinks it's a coin flip coming up today. We'll get into that coming up next.
When it comes to large home repairs, a lot of the time we homeowners pretend we do not see the warning signs. We're afraid of what we're going to hear. This is especially true with waterproofing and foundation repair. It could be something big that needs to be fixed right away, or it could be a small problem now that'll become bigger later. Or it could be nothing at all. Bottom line is we don't know, and we certainly don't want to be sold something we don't need. We need a peace of mind. And United Structural Systems is the company to give you that. They have over 25,000 100% satisfied residential customers, and this is how they make that happen. When USS comes out to your house, you're going to get a problem solver who provides a peace of mind to their customers, the homeowner. You're not going to get someone who's worried about meeting a sales quota, upselling the next big thing, but someone there to educate you and help you understand what is happening with your home. At USS, their only measure of success is how satisfied the homeowner is and not a closing ratio. Homeowners trust USS, keeping homes dry and stable for over 25 years. USS serving Middle Tennessee, Southern Kentucky, Western Kentucky, and Northern Alabama. You can reach them online at USSTN.com or call them 615-488-7855.
Tuesday morning on RKW is brewed by 8th and Roast on 104.5 The Zone. Stop by and see 8th and Roast at any of their 3 locations around Middle Tennessee, 8th Avenue, Charlotte, the Broadview at Vanderbilt, or their 4th spot at the airport if you're flying out. Ramon Foster, Kayla Anderson, Will Bowling, Robert Walsh, our producer, streaming live on 104.5 The Zone TV, Facebook Live, YouTube, Twitter, or Twitch.
Please.
Unless you're us, because we have no Wi-Fi in this building. Right?
We
None.
have none, 0. Just spinning. Is there anything more annoying than that spinning wheel, like on your computer?
I'll tell you what's more annoying is the fact that you expect your morning crew to be here early. Never mind. I was about
No,
to
what's more annoying is that we're asked for a new password to said Wi-Fi.
Right, because we were never told that.
See, this is why we're grumpy in the mornings at times.
Exactly.
It's because we get the blunt end of a lot of stuff to where it's disrespectful to your employees. We should have the same stuff that everybody else
Yes.
do on their shows.
Because we've got a
And I'm
4-hour
saying
show,
that out
too.
loud.
We've got a
Can't
4-hour show.
You need to have the expectation. You need to meet everybody's expectation. That's terrible if you change the Wi-Fi password in this building and didn't alert your 6 o'clock crew.
Let's go.
We shouldn't have to put up with that. And I said it on air.
It's a good thing we have the Santa Maria de Dota coffee from 8th and Roast this morning.
There we go.
It's good, too.
It is really good. It is maybe my favorite blend that we have received from our good friends at 8th and Roast.
I agree with that.
They have so many blends. It's like incredible.
They do. They certainly do. It is funny. Talking about the CBS television ratings, they got community noted on Twitter.
What does
Because
that mean?
the tweet, so basically, if you have a verified Elon checkmark, then you can basically contest claims on Twitter and get them corrected. That way, it's supposed to
Right.
stop fake news. Yet, many of the people who create fake news are the ones with the blue checkmarks who are creating the community notes. But then, if the Magic X Lords decide that you are right in your contestment, in your claim, it's not a word, then they'll add a little note at the bottom of the tweet that says, "This isn't true," which happens a lot, actually. So this is not the most watched telecast in history, like what CBS is saying in their graphic. It's, I believe, the most watched telecast in U.S. history
Okay.
when you put like 3 channels together. But still, I think the moon landing had more viewers on one channel than this. So, yeah.
Even back then?
I did see that on CNN last night. It said this was the most watched television U.S. telecast since the moon landing.
Wow. And some people believe
So.
that still didn't even exist.
I know. I know. I wonder could they project that because of the amount of households that had televisions back then, or is the fact that everybody was out watching it on television, so they somewhat, I don't know, I can go deep into the weeds on that type of stuff.
There was only like one channel, too. And
Yeah.
I don't know if the number was higher. Like, I don't know if they had that many millions of people, but the Nielsen number, like the number of people watching at a percentage of television, like it probably drew an 80. Like 80% of people watching television are watching the moon landing, but I don't know if it outdrew the Super Bowl.
So 150 million was the number for the moon landing.
Oh, wow. I can
Whoa.
believe that.
Wow.
Yeah, so 123.4 watched across CBS. Or, well, an average of 123.4 among CBS, Paramount Plus, and Nickelodeon. But the moon landing was 150. So
Okay.
I can believe that. That's fair. That's fair.
Fair
Or
enough.
if it did happen, from what they said.
How much
Right.
did TVs cost back then, Ramon?
How much did TVs cost? I think they were like $7.50.
Oh, okay. That's not bad.
The big question is, how much did they weigh?
I mean, a ton.
Damn, those things were heavy.
I did see a tweet about that, or an X about that last night, of another person breaking their television because they lost money on the Super Bowl. That being said, 0% of those videos are real.
Thank you.
If someone is filming the end of a game like that, then they know that there's a skit happening to break a TV. So please know when you're circulating these things in Facebook groups, because usually these videos are found on Facebook. At the end of the day, they're not real. If someone is filming you, they know you're about to do something remarkably stupid. I'd say maybe 1% of them are real. But it was funny that someone said, the declining cost of televisions have made it way too easy to break a TV. Because if you did that in 2004, we'd be throwing hands.
Right? I keep my TVs probably longer than I should even, too, because I'm just like, I don't want to put in the cost, but I guess they're not that bad.
Well, you say that unless you're going to get you an OLED or a QLED. Now, I don't think anybody's out here breaking one of those TVs.
How much are those suckers?
$2,500 or like $4,500, depending on what size you get. Yeah.
615-737-1045. Toby is in Hermitage this morning. What's up, Toby?
Morning, Will, Kayla, and Savage.
What's
what I'm
up?
going to do is start me a petition, and I'm going to need 3 celebrities such as yourself to sign in on this petition.
Okay.
I want to get Monday, after Super Bowl Sunday, a federal paid holiday, because yesterday 3/4 of my crew came into work hungover, and we couldn't get nothing done.
That's
Toby,
awesome.
can we make this petition that the Super Bowl is just always the day before President's Day? That would be my question, because that is a federal holiday for many. This is my ask. Toby is no longer on the line.
Yeah,
Thank you for your call,
I'm with
but you're
that.
fighting the good fight.
We always just want just one more holiday added to the
Got to.
calendar.
As many as they'll give us, we'll take them, baby.
But you couldn't do that and then President's Day the next week,
I know. Well, that'd be a great.
because then we wouldn't get
back-to-back.
President's Day.
I
So let's
know.
just do them at the same time.
I don't know. I'd absolutely. I'm with that. I'm 100% with that. Toby, I hate that for you, man. Maybe by lunchtime they should have been ready. Maybe by lunchtime they should have
Right?
been
At
ready.
least he went to work. Like props to him, Toby, on that.
Yeah. Well, Toby said it's his crew, so he had to
He
go
had
to
to
work.
be
Yeah,
there.
he
had
go
to be the
work.
big boss and act like he was okay when he was really hungover.
That's what happened when you the man, Toby.
Do what you want when you poppin'. So today is Injunction Day for Tennessee. We mentioned earlier that Austin Price will join us about an hour early than he typically does. So he'll stop by at 7:20 this morning to discuss what to expect. Adam Sparks of the Knoxville News-Sentinel gave us a great breakdown yesterday. And if you want to find that entire conversation, you could do so wherever you download podcasts from yesterday's show. He thinks today is a coin flip between Tennessee and the NCAA.
It's a coin flip, I think. It really is. I mean, I talked to the Attorney General a few days ago, and he admitted that if you don't get if your restraining order is denied, it's plausible that your injunction will also get denied. I mean, the Tennessee side of it, the state of Tennessee is arguing that you have to stop these NIL rules like right now, like this week, or there's going to be irreparable harm done. That these recruits won't know which school to pick because they can't discuss how much the NIL money they're going to get. Like, you got to fix this now as opposed to a few months from now. And, you know, it's really up to the judge whether he thinks this is like an immediate concern. He didn't think the restraining order was. There's going to be extra arguments tomorrow of why he needs to shut this down now rather than later. I'll say that the UT side of it and the state of Tennessee side of it celebrated the language in the restraining order as much as they did whether or not it was granted. And I think you'll probably see that in this one. The language in the restraining order was, hey, this is denied, but NCAA, you're probably going to lose down the road. That was a big celebration at UT, that it was like, okay, we're going to win. We just don't know if we're going to win this week or like in 6 months. And, you know, that's sort of a signal to the NCAA that they probably need to back off sooner than later. And so whether it's granted or denied, I think that certainly matters. If it's granted, NIL's probably done, and NCAA's probably leaving UT. But if it's denied, and the language, again, reemphasizes that these violate antitrust rules, NIL rules do, antitrust law, then there's going to be a celebration over that as well.
So that was Adam Sparks of the Knoxville News-Sentinel with us yesterday, essentially saying the NCAA is going to take an L eventually, but does it happen today? Does it happen in 2 weeks? And does it meet the burden of proof that the state of Tennessee has to meet in order to claim that there is irreparable harm being done to high school athletes' NIL value by having the current rules in place for another week or two? That's the question. And a loss today or a loss in 2 weeks for Tennessee, again, is not the ultimate loss for Tennessee. It would simply mean that the entire process would have to play out in order for Tennessee to beat the NCAA, which seems inevitable at this point.
Yeah. This, to me, somewhat seems dang if you do, dang if you don't. I do agree with Adam when it comes down to the high school prospects and NIL and stuff like that. Like, college coaches are adamantly trying to get players to commit right now. And NIL is a part of that, too. The decisions to be made about where a guy is going, I think they go to places because of the love. I do. I still think players go to schools because of the love and stuff they grew up on watching, and the coaches and the teams and the championships and the wins and stuff like that. And but the NIL does affect the recruiting more and more these days. And if they do just so happens to put a halt on it or stop these guys from negotiating and and saying that it violates antitrust laws in certain states, then how do you negotiate? If he can't log a NIL in Tennessee or Missouri or Virginia, then how can you get them to commit in certain places like that? That monetary gain they were able to get on the front end is probably not going to be there on the back end because of it. Money spent. You get left behind sometimes. It's like somebody being out of the league and complaining, oh, I didn't used to get paid that. Well, you should have been born later then. And this case affects that type of stuff. And it really does come down to what's the fairness that the judge is going to see in it. And does the court case matter in the end? I think you're almost wasting time if you send it through the court cases and put Tennessee and a bunch of other teams in this predicament of just a holding cell. You're in a holding cell trying to decide what's right and how you recruit moving forward. If this is one of those situations where the NCAA, and I continually say it for years, they knew that this was on the forefront. You just didn't know when until the Supreme Court opened it up for everybody. And now the idea that they didn't put rules and guidelines in place state to state, and you had a place like California just say you can make money off of yourself. California has one of the richest recruiting beds in all sports, not just college sports, but the Olympic sports also. They make money there, so why not? And the fact that you negotiated because of California laws, I can't understand how they didn't just open it up or start to at least set guidelines for it. I remember hearing about it. I think I was in California when we heard about Nico and the deal that he was going to get. And I'm just thinking to myself, wow, like this is actually friggin' happening now. And nobody jumped in front of it. It's almost like they operate a month, a year, 2 years behind all things that should be done at the time. Why didn't they step up to the plate to say, whoa? Because when I initially heard, I'm like, $8 million, golly. And I think I was still a pro at that point in time or close to, or just retiring. Nobody jumped in and said, hey, we got to get control of this. This is one of those, I'm going to whoop you for something you did 2 months ago. Like, nah, we forgot about that by now. And it's not just that. It's other teams and states and cities that have essentially done the exact same thing too and celebrate it openly. So the best case scenario, I think, is to just end it today.
Well, that's, to me, they're just delaying the inevitable. According to Adam Sparks, this might not change this week in terms of it being in favor of Tennessee, but, the lingo kind of indicates that down the road, whether that be 6 months or, whatever it be, it's going to probably go Tennessee's way. So my whole thing about the NCAA is, first of all, you never were able to get details laid out or structure laid out about what you knew was going to be a very sticky kind of thing with NIL. But just because it's so new and there's so many things that you can go into where the details aren't defined. And so you knew that at some point like this was going to happen and you didn't make anything to prevent it, or you didn't work with the schools, right? You didn't do anything. And now you're coming back, like you said, after the fact and being like, we're going to start slapping people on the wrists, or even worse than that, on the bottom, and, hit them with infractions and whatever. So I just think this is such a petty thing that the NCAA kind of knows too what could happen here with them not winning, and to maybe continue to go along with this. And instead of just throwing in the damn towel in this particular situation with the NIL and saying, okay, let's put a restart to this, right? But the NCAA, I feel like they have so much just not wanted pride, but they think, hey, we're the NCAA still. We're going to stick to our guns. That's the most pathetic part. They're not about college football and it being better and actually getting solutions. They're in it because they're the NCAAs. They're the big bad boys.
It's going to be interesting today for a lot of different reasons.
Adam Sparks yesterday also spoke about the NCAA and their existence, how NIL rules will be affected by the injunction hearing that starts today in an organization that Greg Sankey, the SEC, still wants to exist in at least a little bit of its current form.
they're trying to figure out where to flex their muscle because they need to show that they should exist, and they flex their muscle in the wrong place. They in NIL they had messed up the rules to begin with, so they shouldn't have done it there, and they shouldn't have done it at Tennessee. I think they were lulled into this idea that, hey, we're buddies. This last NCAA case, we worked with Tennessee and all that. Well, that was always a friendship, just based on circumstances. Tennessee was friends with them because they needed to get past the Jeremy Pruitt stuff and not pay his buyout. And I think they were lulled into that sense of security. They came back to Tennessee, and Tennessee was ready for a firefight. And so I think they flexed in the wrong place and with the wrong school. If it looks like NIL rules are going to be struck down eventually. Even the judge said in his order last week that eventually these are going to be, you're probably going to lose. The NCAA is. These violate antitrust laws. So NIL rules could go away on Tuesday. They could go away like in 6 months. And really, I think maybe the writing on the wall is there for the NCAA to just like sort of figure out something else to do, because they kind of know what the result of this is going to be. If the injunction is not granted in Tennessee's case, then that probably just gives the NCAA a little bit of time to figure this out before they get defeated.
At this point, the incentive has never been higher for the NCAA to come up with rules that everyone actually wants, because they tried to do that after Congress got involved with NIL originally, and now that Congress and an extension of that courts, I know those aren't the same thing, but government is going to strike these down. They got to figure something out. And Adam Sparks mentioned it to us yesterday, and I thought it was a good point that there are a lot of bad options that are on the table. And without due process taking place over a long period of time where member institutions can have a voting process, have a democracy, and understand, all right, this is what we as athletic directors and administrators and coaches want to enact. It is now on the NCAA to come up with a plan as quickly as possible in order to have some kind of red tape, because college football and NIL needs red tape. It just needs red tape that makes sense, that people in the sports actually want, not what former administrators and school presidents who don't understand athletics want. 615-737-1045. More on that coming up with Austin Price in just about a half hour. We'll get the latest as he literally talks to us from outside the federal courthouse in Greenville before he goes in and covers the injunction hearing that begins today. But when we come back, ESPN has way too early NFL power rankings, and neither team in the Super Bowl is ranked number one.
Ooh.
Plus, where are the Titans? We'll tell you coming up next. RKW is brewed by 8th Roast as we wrap up hour number 1 on your Tuesday morning. 615-737-1045, the number. We'll get to some NFL headlines coming up in 15 minutes. And one day later, as cooler heads maybe begin to prevail, is the San Francisco Super Bowl window closed? That is one question I saw asked yesterday among the very stupid questions that national media want to ask about Sunday's Super Bowl. We'll ask some of those stupid questions as well and basically tell you whether or not they're really that stupid. But ESPN did write power rankings for 2024 among their NFL Nation reporters, and the Baltimore Ravens come in at number 1 with 25 unrestricted free agents, including 15 who totaled at least 200 snaps this season. Robert Walsh, how does this make you feel?
It makes sense to me because I'm a homer, but also because when I was looking over like what they're actually losing this offseason, you're correct. It's a lot of snaps, it's a lot of starts, but it's also devalued positions that they've already invested heavily in. You look at Patrick Queen at linebacker, they have Roquan Smith. You look at Geno Stone at safety, they have Kyle Hamilton. The guys that I think would be the bigger losses are the guys that I expect them to retain, like Justin Matabike on the defensive line. I would expect he gets tagged and probably gets a pretty hefty payday for his trouble. But the guys that really showed out that are on the one-year deals, Jadeveon Clowney, Kyle Van Noy, all of those guys can either be replaced by rookies that you brought along or potentially re-signing them if they want to come back and do another handshake deal. So I don't think they're losing a lot. It's not like, oh, man, they've got to get a left tackle or, oh, man, how are they going to reproduce Odell Beckham's 33% snap share? I don't know how they're going to handle that. So it makes sense to me. It's not a large hill to overcome, but there are still things they have to get right this offseason.
And, of course, it is impossible to do legitimate power rankings without knowing who teams have drafted, who they've signed, who their quarterbacks are, who got hurt in the offseason, and things of that nature. I do think it's an interesting exercise, though, to see who national people perceive as the front runners going into a new season.
No doubt. Bert, I have to ask you real quick, too, to that point of all the stuff you just said, because you're a homer to your team. Do you know if Baltimore uses analytics? Is this something they talk about a lot in Baltimore?
That is something they shifted to very heavily in what I refer to as the second tenure of John Harbaugh. Before that, it was very
old school,
punch you in the mouth, old school football. But after, I believe it was a playoff game after the Super Bowl where I can't remember but analytics played a huge portion into it. They had a lot of shortcomings in the season where it was like they should have went for fourth down here, but instead they kicked a field goal. After that, they kind of shifted the way they thought. I believe it was 2019 when they initially hired. I think that right now they have the second most analyst for percentages and stuff like that.
And the only reason I ask that is because, like you said, the way too early side of this is like, how do you project Baltimore to be number 1? Well, it seems like Baltimore, to what Bert just said, already got guys in place. Like, we got to scramble to get some playmakers, some of those hot spots, positions that you're going to need, whether it's off-ball linebacker, edge rushers, or, a tackle, a guard, or something like that. And they already pretty much have it set. And then the other aspect of what they've done is they've drafted wide receivers if they're not going to be there. And from year one to year 2, they should get better.
So what's interesting about that, and I know we'll get into this conversation with President of Football Operations Chad Brinker for the Titans later, but he actually said at some point in that podcast on the OTP that was where they wanted to get to eventually, is where you didn't necessarily have to go into free agency saying, oh, we really need this because we don't have it at all in terms of depth, right? And so I think that's interesting when you look at a team like the Baltimore Ravens. Bert just said it, like, yeah, they could re-sign some guys or some guys are going to leave, but they're okay kind of with some of the stuff they have in terms of just stepping up and going right about their business. So I think that's why they're the top team here early on in the power rankings, because with 49ers and the Chiefs in particular, like Mike Giannitti said yesterday, they still have some pieces they don't know if they can sign yet because of the price. Some key pieces.
On this list, the Titans are ranked 28th in the NFL going into the offseason. The 4 teams behind them, Cardinals, Patriots, Commanders, and Panthers. And with the amount of question marks on this roster, I think that's about right.
Yeah, that's
I mean,
fine
February power rankings mean absolutely zero.
100%.
This is an irrelevant conversation we are having, but this is the benchmark for the way I think we can categorize the list of teams that are around the Titans going into the offseason. It's a checkpoint in the race. It's mile marker 1 in a marathon.
And for the plus side, if you like betting, you're going to get the Titans plus money a lot early in the season. So good for bettors that like the Titans.
Yep.
And
the Titans in one sports book have the worst odds to win the Super Bowl this upcoming season.
The worst?
Wow. I'm a little surprised by that.
Tied with, I believe, the Panthers and Cardinals, I want to say.
Oh, okay. There we go.
Oh, yeah, no, not just the worst themselves.
Okay.
That,
I was
that would
like,
not make
dang.
any sense.
I was like, man.
But they do have the worst odds.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, so it's fair to say this is a cold reset right here.
And you just never know. Like, they could do it in a shorter amount of time, not getting back to the Super Bowl maybe next year, but they could be more successful than people think next year.
This is a build-up.
Yeah, we don't know yet. This is all new.
This is a build-up right here, for sure. I just inboxed you guys.
I was just about to get to
What
this.
was it? Okay.
Adams Park sent us sent a tweet out from the courthouse in Greenville. There is a crane that it holds a big power tee in front of a federal courthouse in Greenville today. So if you ever wondered what it means when we say it just means more, that's what we're talking about. That's what we say when we say it just means more.
Go Vols.
You know what I heard the other night? So we'll get to it. I'll have to ask Savage, but we was talking about the differences between conferences. They interviewed a player after the game, and it was a unique thing he had to say. We'll get to it later.
Okay.
From Savage.
Coming up in hour number 2, Austin Price at 7:20 joins us from outside the federal courthouse in Greenville with the latest on what he expects to happen today between Tennessee and the NCAA, plus staff changes on the horizon in Knoxville with VolQuest's Austin Price at 7:20 this morning. But when we come back, there were a lot of stupid questions asked yesterday by NFL media about the 49ers. How many of them are legitimate? We'll answer them coming up next. Hey, what's going on? It's Will Bowling for my friends at Lee Company. Are you looking to keep your home in great shape year-round? Of course you are. It's always a good thing, right? Sign up for a Lee Company home maintenance plan then for $12 a month. And look, in Middle Tennessee, you never know when it's going to be 70 degrees outside. Maybe when there's snow falling like it was last night. Biggest thing that I can tell you about Lee Company is with their home maintenance plan, you are always going to be ahead of whatever Mother Nature throws at you. You're going to receive 4 service visits a year from the Lee Company team of experts. That's a heating system tune-up, an air conditioning tune-up, an electrical inspection, and a detailed plumbing inspection as well. 4 annual visits, $12 a month. So for the very best in-home service, call Lee Company at 615-567-1000. Do it today or visit them online at leecompany.com and search home maintenance plan to join their membership. $12 a month, that's heating, AC, electrical, plumbing, you name it. Lee Company, they're going to help you with it. 615-567-1000, online at leecompany.com. That's Lee Company, all you need.
7:01. Good morning from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I am Robert Walsh. After winning back-to-back Super Bowls, including 3 of their last 5, Andy Reid confirmed he will be back for his 12th season with the Kansas City Chiefs to go for 3 in a row. No team has ever won 3 Super Bowls in a row in NFL history. The Cowboys are expected to hire their defensive coordinator, Mike Zimmer, the third winningest head coach in Vikings history and long respected for his defensive prowess. A big hire for Dallas. Zimmer previously coached in Dallas from 1994 to 2006. Pittsburgh making some moves yesterday to get some much-needed cap space, releasing quarterback Mitch Trubisky, Chooks Okafor, and punter Presley Harvin. The moves make about $12 million for Pittsburgh, but when considering the top 51 roster rules, the Steelers are still about $7.5 million over the cap. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
$7 a.m. in Nashville and a beautiful day in the Music City. We are Ramon, Kayla, and Will. RKW is brewed by 8th and Roast with Ramon Foster, Kayla Anderson, Robert Walsh, our producer. I'm Will Bowling. Coming up in 15 minutes, Austin Price of VolQuest and On 3 from outside the courtroom in Greenville, Tennessee, the home of the Sauce Burger, where we will get the latest on Tennessee versus the NCAA and what to expect from court proceedings this morning in the injunction hearing for a federal judge in East Tennessee as the state of Tennessee and Virginia fights against the man in the name of name, image, and likeness.
Hold on, I need to hear more about this sauce burger.
Yeah, that's correct. Okay. So Pals is the establishment that I will always give a free shout out to. PALS for those of you spelling at home, not like Powell High School, which is spelled Powell. And yes, I am saying that correctly. Trust me. I'm a doctor.
Big brain on Will. I
don't know much, but they have this, literally, it's called a sauce burger. The next time we have Grant Ramey on, we can ask him about it, as Grant, as a Northeast Tennessee native, can tell us all about this place that is basically recognized by the Better Business Bureau as one of the best small businesses in the country, like a lot. Like it's one of those where like your shirt has to be perfectly ironed. You have the same apron and hat on. It's drive-through only at all of them except for the Greenville one, I think. And there's a couple more maybe that you can go sit in and go to. But they've got like burgers and shakes. They have a peach sweet tea called a peachy tea. Their fries are called Frenchy fries. And they have a sauce burger that's got some kind of sauce on it. It's kind of like an A1 kind of concoction. Really, it's not what you'd expect.
So on their website, it says it is a ketchup-based, mildly spicy sauce.
Yeah,
the
that's
burger
correct.
Can be ordered with cheese and or bacon.
That's correct. And the prices are also very reasonable at Powell's Sudden Service. It is only in Northeast Tennessee. Knoxvillians have been petitioning for years and years and years and years and years to get a Powell's in Knoxville. But the closest Powell's to Knoxville is Morristown. So anyway, any other questions for
that? Looks really saucy.
The Uber Eats charge to get one here says it would be about $180.
I'll chip in a 10.
Don't play with me.
I got a 10 on it. I put 5 on it.
Oh my gosh.
It'd be here around the time the show comes to an end. So
They've got a chili burger that actually looks
yes, they do.
really good.
That is what I usually get. I get the Frenchy fry and then a peachy tea. And then sometimes if I'm feeling bold, I'll also get a strawberry milkshake on the
Field
side.
trip. You got to take a field trip.
Shane in the F&M Bank chat on YouTube has seen heaven and writes in and says, don't forget about the cheddar rounds at Pals.
What?
Those are tremendous.
All right, we
What
got to
are
talk about
those?
something else.
They
I'm too
are
hungry.
so good. 615-737-1045. Danny in the Borough commenting there saying we go there every chance we get. The sauce is boss. So
First
maybe
time I've seen it.
Austin can enjoy some Pals outside the courthouse.
Where do you find this? I mean, on the way, you said Morristown?
Morristown,
Like close to the
Greenville, Kingsport, Bristol, I think are where they have them. There's multiple ones in Johnson City as well, right outside the ETSU Mini Dome you can get Pals.
Okay.
I know there are some people in their cars right now that just got a lot hungrier, and for that, I apologize. But you can stop by 8th and Rose this morning because that's in Nashville, and they've got a great sausage, egg, and cheese croissant sandwich that you can get.
That's
maybe a
tasty.
homemade Pop-Tart if you're feeling bold, if you're feeling daring in the best way. So you should stop by and see them if I just made you hungry. So we'll talk with Austin about that coming up in just about 15 minutes. But guys, yesterday on the front of ESPN.com, there were the words plastered, "Is the 49ers Super Bowl window closed?" And once again, I'm reminded why, just like in businesses, you shop local when it comes to talking sports.
Why is that, Will?
Because why in the world would the 49ers Super Bowl window be closed?
Yeah, that makes no sense at all. Other than the fact that they got to try to retain some stuff. I'm not sure what Trent Williams is going to do as far as his career goes and stuff like that. But you do have to ask the question just because they had everything that you possibly need. That's been my biggest thing is that they've had every Pro Bowler and All-Pro a team could have and retain and keep healthy too. They lost the All-Pro safety. Mm-hmm. And, of course, Dre Greenlaw over the course of the game too. Those two things right there, I don't think negated them winning the Super Bowl because they played it tight. The play in which they lost the Super Bowl on, well, it was a few plays. I don't want to just name, but the last play wasn't a linebacker play. You know what I'm saying? So they had every piece. Nobody mentioned the backup linebacker giving up major plays. Like they had the quarterback healthy. Last year they said, we get him healthy, we're going to win it this time. You had him. You got the running back. He had 160 total yards over the course of the game. You did the trick play. The defense played well. I ain't saying the window's closed, but I'll say being in that position before where you're a year removed and you have this type of stuff happen, you do realize that, hey, you go from the bro hug, one arm around your shoulder, to they drop their arm off your shoulder. Mm-hmm. And then they start pushing you away a little bit. Like, if the offensive style of Shanahan didn't do it, the defense was good enough and healthy enough, and they paid a big boatload for those dudes to be on that side of the ball. I ain't saying it's closing, but I do think it's gotten harder for them to figure out what to do to get back to that situation.
Right. And as long as, a team like Kansas City, who continues to be the big guy on the mountain with Patrick Mahomes, it's tough because it's like maybe if you're down to the wire and it's Brock Purdy against possibly another quarterback that doesn't have so much experience at this point winning Super Bowls and really just being clutch under pressure, maybe they do, right? Yeah. You just don't know. But what I look at with this 49ers team, I never think the window's completely closed here, you guys, because they have really become the way you run an organization. I mean, you're getting Rand Carthon from over there, and a lot of the things you hear that Rand's bringing here to this new structure is very so based off of what the Niners do. And from top to bottom, not only do they have the great culture, but they have the structure, they have the right people in place doing the right things for this football team to year in and year out be competitive, get to the playoffs, and, obviously the ultimate goal, win a Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. It's always hard. It's the hardest thing to do to win the Super Bowl. So even a great team like the Niners, you're seeing it firsthand, they aren't able to get it yet. That doesn't mean they won't have a chance to in the future. I think what I'm looking at too, guys, is does Brock Purdy continue to grow as a quarterback in this league, or does he hit a ceiling at some point? And then do you, like you guys were talking about, do you have to think about then going to get your quarterback? And it's harder when you're a good team because you just don't have those picks.
And that's going to be the challenge with Brock Purdy is at what point do you punt on him being good enough to beat the top 3 to top 5 elite quarterbacks and trust the fact that you have enough around him to make him a top 10 quarterback? Because he probably is one right now.
Mm-hmm. I mean,
he was an MVP candidate.
Yeah, his stats show that he's at tier 1. I mean, tier 1 is saying a lot.
I think he's the top of tier 2.
Yeah, top of tier 2.
I'd agree
Okay,
with
there
that.
we go.
But at what point do you have a law of diminishing returns there? At what point is he only a tier 2 quarterback because he's throwing to Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, blocked by Trent Williams, George Kittle's out there, Christian McCaffrey? That's what San Francisco is going to have to figure out. What I do hate, though, is how places like ESPN will turn everything into a LeBron versus Michael Jordan debate. Like there was literally on First Take yesterday. Is Patrick Mahomes closer to Michael Jordan or Tom Brady? What does that even
I
mean?
hate that.
What does that mean?
I know we talked about the Michael Jordan thing yesterday a little bit, but that's one element of an argument of like, yeah, he's making a lot of really good talents
Better.
Well, no, I mean, he's making a lot of really good talents not be able to put any championships on their resume. That's about the only way that he's similar to Michael Jordan.
So he's got his Patrick Ewings and Charles Barkley's
Exactly.
out there. Yeah. That is, and again, that's why I say, like, I don't think the window's closed. As a good football team that's pretty much established, an established football team, you want to be able to say, we're knocking at the door every year. Mm-hmm. We're knocking. I promise you, we're there every single year. That's what you want for your squad. And they pretty much kicked the door in this year, and it still wasn't enough. So I don't know if it's a Shanahan thing. I don't know if it's a big defensive thing or whatever the case may be, but it does somewhat has to be confusing to say the same way we're talking about Pat. How do you beat them then if you had everything?
Don't muff a punt.
Yeah, you got to be mistake-free, which is hard to do.
And that's the other part of the discourse that I don't like is the whole, like, what went wrong? Well, yeah, one play went wrong. That probably determines the outcome of the entire football game. Because if those teams played 10 times, you could argue that Kansas City would win 5 and San Francisco would win 5. But on that day, the ball bounced Kansas City's way on a muffed punt, and ultimately that's the only error that maybe the greatest quarterback of all time needs in order to win another ring. But that's a little bit too rational for national television. Coming up next, Austin Price of VolQuest will join us. Tennessee's got one staff opening. Could they have a second staff opening on their football staff by the end of today? Potentially trending that way as one assistant coach thinks about an offer from a Big Ten powerhouse. We'll talk about that with Austin Price coming up next. Plus, what he expects to happen in federal court in Greenville as he has his peachy tea from pals. Tennessee versus the NCAA. Austin Price gives us the latest next.
Hey, are you waking up this morning? Maybe you got those achy joints. You maybe dread the idea of in the future having surgery to fix that pain. Well, no need to do that. You need to call QC Kinetics today. Hey, it's Kayla Anderson, and the state of healthcare are always changing. The old ideas like steroids and surgery, that's no longer your only option. Regenerative medicine at QC Kinetics is simply transforming lives with innovative non-surgical drug-free treatments, and they deliver lasting results. So you're dealing with that knee pain, maybe back pain, shoulder pain. Possibly you have arthritis or an old injury that is continuing to bother you. Don't let this pain keep you from living your best life. This is a revolutionary approach that can get you long-term relief with no downtime. So make 2024 the year you reclaim your mobility back, reclaim your independence. You can walk and run, play and live without the danger of trauma or surgery and without harmful drugs. All you got to do is give our friends at QC Kinetics a call. For that and your free consultation, just dial 615-249-4024, 615-249-4024.
RKW is brewed by 8th Roast on 104.5 The Zone. We get the latest from a federal courthouse in Greenville, Tennessee versus the NCAA injunction hearing beginning in minutes. Ramon Foster, Kayla Anderson, Will Bowling, joined now by VolQuest's Austin Price, as we are joined by him every Tuesday here on the show. What's up, Austin? How are you?
Cold. We got a little wind up here in Greenville, and, we'll see kind of what Judge Corker has in mind. I don't know if we hear anything from him today, but I think you're definitely going to hear both sides present their case, and we'll see if Judge Corker decides to grant the injunction today or decides to rule on this in the coming days.
So as simple as I can make it, Austin, does a win today or the win in the next 2 weeks, however long it takes for Tennessee against the AA, mean that the NCAA will simply leave Tennessee alone with its investigation about NIL?
In theory, they could continue to push on if they wanted to, but I think there is a large theory that, even just with the judge's language when he decided not to grant the temporary restraining order last week, that, the NCAA could end up backing off here a little bit. I think, as we've talked about before, their record or recent record in court cases has not been too good. Now, again, this is not a trial. This is for an injunction, and if this thing actually gets to any kind of trial, or if there is a lawsuit from the university or Spire, I think that's probably more winnable than today is. And today, I think, it's more of a coin flip. But as far as whether the judge is going to rule in favor of the state attorney general and grant the injunction, but either way, I think there's a lot of optimism on the Tennessee side of things as they head into today and into whatever kind of the future holds.
Austin, what is the NCAA's strongest punch that they have going into this court session?
I'm not sure they have a huge, or a strong punch, so to speak. I think the biggest thing they're going to try to push is, all of these states, including Tennessee and Virginia, have had people on all of our committees. They've, been a part of, us making rules and regulations for X amount of years. Now, all of a sudden, because, they broke the rules or whatever, even though there really are no rules when it comes to NIL, they're trying to do an about face on this stuff. So, I think they're just going to try to present like, they've been with us this whole time. They're only conveniently against us now that, they need to be to help their case.
When it comes down to the questions that will be asked in court, do you simply ask them what took them so long to get to this point?
Yeah, I think that's probably one of the main questions you'll hear asked today, Ramon. On both sides, why is it taking so long for both sides to get to this point? This is a situation where the NCAA let the toothpaste get back out of the tube. They've tried to put it back in the tube, and it's just not going. And I think you're going to see more and more of this. If it wasn't Tennessee, it was going to be somebody else that pushed back. It was going to be another state, another school, or whatever that pushes back against the NCAA. We see that more and more and more. And so, again, I think this was inevitable, whether it was Tennessee or somebody else.
Austin Price of VolQuest joined us this morning on RKW, talking some Tennessee football. So recently we heard Jerry Mack, a running backs coach for the Vols, headed to the Jacksonville Jaguars, and you talked about some initial candidates. Who are some of the people that you're seeing pop up, and what's really the significance of this loss in terms of him as a coach?
Well, Jerry's a great football mind. He's been an OC, he's been a head coach, obviously was a running backs coach here. Very smart. Yeah, the best thing I could say about Jerry Mack is he's a good human being, and he is so steady Eddie, even keel. Like on Saturdays when games can be so emotional and volatile, he never was too high, too low. Like he was just kind of, no matter what happened, touchdown, fumble, whatever, he was the same guy. And I think that's something you'll miss, when you look up and, you've got a guy who, no matter the situation, is either saying stay focused or, whatever. I think that, it's a loss, and it's the Jacksonville Jaguars' gain. I think they're getting a really good football coach. So Tennessee will try to go out and see if they can fill it. And unlike the previous couple of hires, I do think this will be an outside hire by Josh Heupel. A lot of names on that hot board. Carlos Lachlan from Oregon has some ties to the state of Tennessee. Anthony Jones, same thing. There's a number of different candidates that have impressive resumes that I believe have interest in this job.
Austin Price of VolQuest, our guest this morning on Ramon, Kayla, and Will. Austin, Brian Jean-Marie rumored to be potentially interested in a job at his former employer at Michigan as they replace Jesse Minter and others on that staff. What's the latest on his situation with Tennessee, and could Tennessee look to promote from within to potentially replace him, or is it too early to say what their plan might be, considering he is still technically officially on staff?
Well, I think it's way too early. And I think Brian Jean-Marie's preference would be to remain on staff at Tennessee. I think the family's really comfortable in Knoxville. Michigan is trying to surround Sherrone Moore with as good a staff as they can. Obviously, famed defensive coordinator Wink Martindale is their new DC at Michigan. And, I think that, they're trying to put a lot of pieces around Coach Moore to give him the best chance to be successful, and that starts with going out and getting someone who Sherrone Moore really likes in BJ, and we'll see. As far as like if he did leave, I don't know. I don't know if there's a path to promotion from within. I don't think there's anybody like could they move Eckler to inside linebackers and promote like Coach Chop to Leo's? I guess it's possible. I still would probably call that unlikely, but I guess it is possible. And then, again, I think, you'll probably hear something on Coach BJ in the next, 24 to 48 hours or so. And, again, I think his preference is to be back on Rocky Top. But again, it always doesn't play out that way because schools, toss around a lot of money, and we'll kind of see where it goes.
Austin, on the way out, I know you've got to head into court here in just a minute. What do you think is the most likely outcome today? Is this a 2-week process in terms of Tennessee fighting this battle in courts, or do we get some kind of decision today?
Most likely, I think you don't hear anything from the judge today. He leaves the courtroom and goes back to kind of weigh kind of what he's heard. I could be wrong. Lord knows I'm not a deeply entrenched legal person, but based off my talks with several different people, most, and I would say probably 85 or 90% think that nothing will be decided today. And it's just it's kind of a chance for both sides to kind of make their case in person, vocally, not just in written.
He is Austin Price at Austin Priceless on Twitter outside the federal courthouse in Greenville. Austin, we appreciate the time on a busy day. Thank you.
Thanks, Austin.
Appreciate it, guys. Thank you.
Yes, sir. There's Austin Price with us this morning. All the latest on Tennessee against the NCAA. What sticks out from what he had to say?
Nothing will come out today. I think that was super unique. This is just going to go through the proceedings, and they'll decide behind closed doors, and nothing will come out today. I think that's super unique. As Coach Mack like to say sometimes, keep your powder dry today.
Yeah, it's just a thing in terms of the court. It's always a process, right, in figuring out. And I'd rather them do it the right way and taking their time in terms of the judge to get it right than just having something tomorrow or later today. So I think just patience on this whole thing right now is the biggest thing. I guess as antsy as we are to want to know like what the answer is.
On the staff front, I think it's interesting. Austin Price makes the comment that Brian Jean-Marie, Tennessee's inside linebackers coach, and I'll double check that because him and Austin, not Austin Eckler, Lord have mercy, Mike Eckler share that position between inside linebackers and outside linebackers. I do think it's interesting. Austin mentions that Brian Jean-Marie's first choice is to stay, and he is specifically linebackers, and Mike Eckler is outside linebackers and special teams. Ramon Foster, as a recruit, if you were told in December who your position coach is, you signed, what dorm room you're going to have, who your roommates are, and you've got everything signed, sealed, and delivered. You're taking anthropology. You're taking poli-sci 101. And then all of a sudden, hold up. I have a new position coach.
I know.
In February, 3 months after you've signed. And let's say, for the sake of your argument, if you were signing in February the way it was, this would be like you finding out in April after signing in February that you're going to have a new position coach. How would that have made you feel as an 18-year-old?
I ain't gonna say bamboozle. That's a little bit too strong, because I'll say this: my commitment to Tennessee was to Tennessee and also to Coach Foreman. I didn't know a whole lot about Jimmy Ray Stevens, my position coach. Now I know in today's game, the recruiting of a primary guy, your position coach, is a little bit different. I do have to have the understanding of who the coaches are. In today's game, it may be a little bit different. If you're going for the school, you go for the school and the head coach. Both of those can somewhat pair themselves up, unless you have a Rodney Garner as your position coach. Now, that one may be a little significant. But I was also thinking this is also one of those situations, Will and Kayla, to where the transfer portal is a part of it. Like if Brian John Marie is a coach that you say, I want to play for him, and then he leaves, I also have to either be reassured by the head coach, somebody on the defensive staff, one of the recruiting coordinators that say, hey, I promise you we got you. It's going to be somebody equal or better than what we just had. I don't know how you can really just sell that, but it does somewhat, as a player, I'd side-eye it. I'd go through spring practice and probably just say, all right, let me see how this fit. This new coach can be totally different. Let's go. Brian John Marie has been one of those coaches at Tennessee that's been highly talked about. Great communicator, presses his players really well and really gets a lot out of them. I think we saw that out of Arian Carter last year, did we not? So seeing that be the case, I have to ask those questions to the upperclassmen. Hey, Arian, how was it here in the linebackers room? What did you get out of it? Do you think we'll be fine without Coach Brian John Marie? Those are the questions that I will have to ask. But I would, in that first semester, in today's climate, if I didn't fully agree with the coach that they bring in, it wouldn't shock me to see somebody jump into the portal because of that.
And that's why when Austin Price was just speaking with us about Jerry Mack, who is the running backs coach, who has clearly done a really good job with developing a lot of these Tennessee running backs we've seen in the last couple of years, when he said just the calmness that Jerry Mack brings on the sideline on Saturdays. I found that interesting. I did not know that because I'm not on the sidelines in a Tennessee game covering that, but just being able to, when things maybe go wrong or you're fumbling the ball or something like that, you make a mistake, and he's there as the soothing kind of figure on the sideline that's like, okay, keep your calm, or wherever he is, in the booth, wherever he is, keep your calm. Like that's huge for those players as they develop. And I would think losing a guy like that, it's a bummer. Like if you're those players that are there at Tennessee and you've had him in your room for that long, like that is a big loss. But, this is the part of college football. As players now are moving around, coaches, we're seeing them go to the NFL all the time. And it's a big step for, I feel like, Jerry Mack's career. But those players, like, that's a loss in that room. And they have to make sure they get that right too, and whoever they bring in to continue to develop that position.
Yeah, the Jerry Mack one, less so. I'm more talking about the Brian Jean-Marie one, too, of going like within college. Because then you've got a chance to transfer to Michigan if you really wanted to play for him, or whenever that window opens again. I think from the Jerry Mack point of view, you look at the guys that he's recruited. You've got Peyton Lewis, the 4-star running back, number 12 running back in the country coming in this year. The experience that he had that I think it's going to be important to replace was his experience recruiting Memphis specifically. And a guy that came from Memphis where he was on staff there before he was at Tennessee. Dylan Sampson was a Jerry Mack guy who was going into this upcoming season as the number 1 running back on Tennessee's roster. So I think it's interesting now, every time Tennessee has an opening on the staff, as Tennessee gets closer to the elite level of the SEC and tries to bridge the gap between Tier 2 and Tier 1, which is the biggest jump to make. Like, you've got to go a lot farther to go from Tier 2 to Tier 1 in the SEC than Tier 3 to Tier 2. That's the biggest gap. It's harder to go from 9-3 to 11-1 and 12-0 than it is to go from 6-6 to 9-3.
Yeah, absolutely.
And they're going to have to upgrade the staff from a recruiting perspective every time they have an opening now. And I think that's what is noteworthy to me in this from Josh Heupel's perspective.
It's fascinating with Jerry Mack going to the NFL, too. That's a cool point to be made, too. You can at least – Jerry Mack can sell to the guys he recruited. Peyton Lewis, who we're hearing is supposed to be really good. Hey, I'll see you at the next level. Like, you're going to be fine here. I'm leaving because 20 years in college football and I've ran my course here. Like, this is on you, and you're going to be fine. You can somewhat sell that, but like you say, college to college, that's a different conversation. You got to wonder if, the integrity of saying, I'm not going to poach your guys if Brian John Marie does chooses to leave. But it is a conversation to be had. I had a position coach fired in college, and, of course, it changes from one tempo to the other. One guy was a super hard type of guy, and the other one was somewhat in the middle of it when he boils down to how you coached us up. But all in all, it matters. You see them dudes every single day. They need to be father figures. I've seen, certain types of coaches that have ruined players just playing time or just their coaching style isn't for that type of player that was recruited before that coach got there. I've seen that be the case where a 4-star guy never played because the coach crushed him. You know what I'm saying? So there has to be some of that. But the silver bullet in today's game, transfer portal, baby.
Yeah, it changes the game. Quick question for you, comparing a position coach for you at the NFL level to a position coach for you at the college level. How different is that relationship? I'm just curious, just for myself, just because I feel like in college, you might be spending a little more time with them. And like you said, more of a father figure.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to really see, like, with the loss of a position coach, whether they're going to college or NFL, what is it like for that young man?
In college, you got to deal with him because he's a part of that coaching staff that's not going to move on as often. And the players, I ain't going to say don't matter as much. They've started to matter more in college, but the players have to do what the coaches say in those moments.
Yeah.
In the NFL coaches got to somewhat appease to the players. If you suck as a coach, you're going to be fired. It's just that simple. The voices of the players matter a whole lot more in the NFL than they do in college because you're youth in college, and we're teaching you how to be pros, and you think that coach is good at his job. I met some NFL coaches, position coaches, flat out year one, hey, this guy sucks. And they're gone.
Yeah. Right. One question of the F&M Bank chat, Dylan writes in on YouTube, where you can stream the show live. Where's Montario Hardesty coaching at? Bring him in GBO. I do not expect Montario Hardesty to be part of this search. It is very early in the process, but VolQuest's Austin Price, who just joined us, mentioned Oregon running backs coach Carlos Lachlan as one name, who prior to going to Eugene was the running backs coach at Western Kentucky and has had off-field roles at Florida State and Memphis. So again, there you go. You talk about replacing Memphis recruiting experience where Jerry Mack has been one of the primary recruiters in that area. It's going to be important to get someone who has familiarity recruiting in the South and recruiting maybe Memphis specifically. You've got Carlos Lachlan, who's on their list, where you can go to on3.com. You can go to volquest.com to read their entire list of potential running backs coaches. Carlos Lachlan also played 4 years at Chattanooga, where he rushed for over 1,500 yards in his career. They've also got Anthony Jones, running backs coach at TCU, on the list, former Cordova High School head coach.
Okay.
Who, again, Memphis
area.
There is a trend among all of these that I think is important to note when you talk about who's going to coach running backs for Tennessee in a 901 recruiting experience, because that is an area Tennessee needs to win in recruiting, and you got to go up against Ole Miss because Oxford is closer than Knoxville is.
That's a drive.
For a lot of those guys. For all of those guys, honestly. 615-737-1045. More headlines coming up next. The Dallas Cowboys have their defensive coordinator for their lame duck head coach. We'll tell you about that coming up next. Plus, what Austin Price said just a few minutes ago about what to expect from Tennessee versus the NCAA in federal court today. Headlines on the way coming up next.
Most likely, I think you don't hear anything from the judge today. He leaves the courtroom and goes back to kind of weigh kind of what he's heard. But based off my talks with several different people, most, and I would say probably 85 or 90% think that nothing will be decided today. And it's just it's kind of a chance for both sides to kind of make their case.
That was VolQuest's Awesome Price with us just a few minutes ago on RKW, brewed by 8th and Roast. An opportunity for both Tennessee, meaning the state of Tennessee, and the NCAA to make their cases today. Injunction hearing that begins in 12 minutes in Greenville. Ramon Foster, Kayla Anderson, Will Bowling with you. I don't think any surprises there, guys, that don't expect a resolution to what is going to be a long saga between the Tennessee and NCAA that starts today.
That's exactly how it goes every single time. It's tiring is what it is. Like, this whole process, it could have been done years ago when this first dropped about Nico and just NIL and name, image, and likeness anyway. If it's, a couple weeks to 6 months, I can live with that. The kickoff of the college football season is where you're at. But this is where it really muddies the waters, as Adam Sparks brought up yesterday. It's the idea that when you're trying to incorporate what NIL is and you're negotiating on the basis of these guys' valuation, if it's operating at a rampant rate right now and you have the ability to be employed by NIL collectives, because that's what's happening. Yes, they have allegiances to colleges and universities, but how are you able to fully operate if you have this stop hold every single time? Like, it's just a roadblock of foolishness. And Will, you said it earlier, and I even wrote it down, man. Why is it so hard for the NCAA to do something that everybody wants? Like, that was one of the best things you said on the show, Will.
Thank you.
And then you've said a couple of good things here and there.
It's rare.
It's rare that you said a couple of good things
That's
here and
fair.
there. But you said that today, and that's just where it comes down to. It's just like common sense. Like, why don't you want to do something that everybody wants? And I think that's the most frustrating part on my end, being that I'm part of the old NCAA, to where none of this was possible. And we begged for this to be the case for years. And a lot of people was just like, well, no, you're not employed. We ain't asking for employees. We ain't asking to be employees. We ain't asking for all those types of things. But to have the ability to make money off of your name, when I've seen Peyton Manning's jersey in there, I've seen when Eric Berry became a starter at UT, his jersey number be in there. I've seen Gerard Mayo number 7 be in the UT shop store. But I can't benefit off that, but you can. And because of those sales and the licensing contracts that you have as a business with the school and the NCAA, you get a cut of that, but I don't. Like,
I had
everybody,
one of those Eric Berry jerseys.
but it didn't have his name. It didn't have his name
and
on
I
the
played
back.
with free safety number 14 on the NCAA football video game, too.
Who was that player?
With his exact height and weight and hometown.
As much as I love that game, I would have loved to just had a extra couple $100. Like, they could have got away with probably just giving pennies at that point in time. They could have got away with probably $200 a month. Mm-hmm. And now they got to give up millions.
That's why I thought it was interesting, too, that Austin Price said if it wasn't Tennessee, it was going to be another school.
Yeah.
And honestly, as much as this sucks for Tennessee to have to go through this, I look at it as the way that Don D. Plowman and their staff kind of operate. This might be the best school to battle them and to win and to actually get something changed for the future when it comes to the NCAA and coming after schools for things like this, where they could be working on things to better college football. So, if anything, as much as that stinks right now for Tennessee, I almost feel like they were the most equipped school, and not like the NCAA was thinking this because they picked the wrong school, but to go after this and maybe possibly make some change and move this forward.
Other news in the football world yesterday, the Dallas Cowboys reached agreement with Mike Zimmer to make the former Minnesota Vikings coach the Dallas Cowboys defensive coordinator, of course, replacing now Commanders head coach Dan Quinn, 67-year-old who was a Cowboys assistant coach from 94 to 2006, starting as a defensive assistant, moving to defensive backs in 95, the last season that Dallas won a Super Bowl. and then was defensive coordinator from 2000 to 2006. Of course, had a 74-59 record from 2014 to 2021 as the head coach of the Minnesota Vikings. What do we make of the Cowboys going into 2024?
Jerry said they're all in. but that's also, they're just trying to find as many think tanks, I think, as they possibly can to get them over the hump. They're in a position where they do have that type of squad that's knocking at the door, too. You can't deny that, especially with Dak having a contract come up soon, too. But they're going, as Jerry said, early in this offseason, all in, trying to find the minds that's going to get them over the hump to be players. But they have an issue at left tackle. I'm not sure Tyron Smith is going to do. But they do have to have the ability to have coaches that can push them over the hump right now.
Yeah, it's a good hire in my eyes. I mean, you're getting a veteran guy. You saw it in Quinn, a guy that knew what he was doing. I just think with this Dallas Cowboys team, you guys, how many times have we said when they get in the postseason that you just don't feel like you can bet on the Dallas Cowboys to get to that next level? I mean, they're just not able to get over the hump, and I do not know what it is. Is it because Jerry Jones is still around? Is it because Dak Prescott isn't the answer at quarterback? We could go round and round, but every time we try to make an excuse for why the Dallas Cowboys can't get past the second round, and we still keep scratching our heads.
Interesting whatever happens with them this year. They just find themselves in the Jason Garrett lame duck head coach situation once again. And they're going to double down on it by bringing in a guy who was in the NFC North while Mike McCarthy was the head coach of Green Bay. But I think Mike Zimmer is a good defensive coordinator.
I do too.
It's going to be hard to be as good as Dan Quinn was, but with Deron Bland and Micah Parsons and the entire defensive cast of characters they have there, I think there'd be a lot of defensive coordinators who would be successful with that roster. Coming up next, a trend continued in college hoops last night that should make Tennessee fans feel a little bit better about their most recent loss, and a coach got ejected in the process. We'll tell you about it next.
I don't know what it is about, the January, February months. Maybe because the sun's not out and you're just kind of feeling down. It's the new year. Your body's not feeling right. Maybe you're just feeling off. Toxins actually build up in the body. That suppresses your immunity and your ability to absorb nutrients and fight illnesses. And that's what we all want to be doing this time of year, especially. That excess waste also can cause you to permanently age, carry around some of that extra weight that you might be feeling. And that is why you need to change your body's oil once in a while to try to get it just rejuvenated. And that's why the Youthful Cleanse by Daily Defense is really a way to go. A simple fix right now during these winter months. And you can get yours today at membersnutrition.com. Take control of your health, take control of your life by trying this Youthful Cleanse. From the air we breathe to the food we eat and the stress in our daily lives, those toxins, like I said, going to build up, and you want a way to just get rid of them. You can do the Youthful Cleanse over the weekend. It's not even a week-long process. Just have your stomach a little empty for it and take a couple of these vitamins, and you're good to go by the next week in terms of your work week. Feeling good again, feeling good in these winter months. So make sure to check out Members Nutrition. They also have a ton of great vitamins. I'm actually taking the probiotic right now. I love it each and every morning. Pop 2 of those and feeling great in terms of my gut health. So check out Members Nutrition today. It is membersnutrition.com.
8:01. Good morning from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I am Robert Walsh. After winning back-to-back Super Bowls, including 3 in the last 5 years, Andy Reid has confirmed that he will return to the Chiefs for his 12th season to go for 3 in a row. No team has ever won 3 Super Bowls in a row in NFL history. The Cowboys are expected to hire Mike Zimmer as their defensive coordinator. Zimmer's the third winningest head coach in Vikings history and a long-respected defensive coordinator, a big hire for Dallas, as Zimmer previously coached in Dallas from 1994 to 2006. And Pittsburgh making some moves yesterday to get some much-needed cap space, releasing quarterback Mitch Trubisky, offensive lineman Chuks Okafor, and punter Presley Harvin. The moves make about $12 million for Pittsburgh, but considering top 51 roster rules, the Steelers still have about $7.5 million over the cap to figure out. For all your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Tuesday morning in RKW is brewed by 8th and Roast as we roll right into half number 2. On a beautiful Tuesday morning in Music City, Ramon Foster, Kayla Anderson, Will Boulding with you, 615-737-1045. How you jump in as we got 2 hours left. We're going to talk in 20 minutes about a conversation Chad Brinker had with Ramon Foster, with Mike Keith, Coach Tate McGinnis, Rhett Bryan, down in Mobile at the Senior Bowl. A couple of interesting nuggets that are not being discussed enough about the Titans' free agent strategy going forward into free agency in just a few weeks. And one specific part of free agency, Chad Brinker says the Titans want to avoid, that I think people will find particularly interesting. We'll also get you some info on what Mike Giannitti of Spot Track told us yesterday about some free agent targets and potentially a trade target for the Titans this offseason as well.
Hey, now.
Lots of good info to get to. That Chad Brinker podcast that you guys did, I just finished listening to it, and it was just enlightening in how he breaks down everything, and everything from how he met Ran Carthon, and just some of the things he says specifically about Ran actually made me even at more ease with Ran's ability to kind of build this team. And we'll get into all that, and you should go listen to it on the OTP. It's really good. But yeah, just some of the things like analytically that he's talking about that they're doing for maybe the first time, really diving into that stuff to be up there with teams like the Baltimore Ravens, the 49ers, the Chiefs, to stay at that consistent level of elite.
Yeah, and that's what you're looking for right there, staying at that consistent level. Like, we had an earlier conversation about the Niners, and is that window closing and stuff like that. If you're constantly just walking around the house and knocking on the door every once in a while, it's a matter of, and Chad Brinker said that in his conversation, you're never just 1 or 2 players away. It's a matter of scenarios, plays being made. I mean, we talking about a football hitting somebody's foot.
Yeah.
And gave Kansas City the short field. Like, you can have everything lined up. And I personally do think the 49ers did, as we, revisit the Super Bowl some. But to actually have a plan in place, and he broke that down on how, the weight coach, the weight room coach and the training room and all those people being aligned to where every piece of information inside the building, that's something that's been said too. Every piece of information inside the building is consistently the same.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that part of it was really interesting. And Chad Brinker mentioned that a lot of teams are doing this and implementing the kind of military-like process that the Titans are implementing, where the nutritionist is talking to the trainer who's talking to the strength coach, and pretty much word for word, Chad Brinker says, we're not going to have guys going into the weight room and having the strength coach tell them to do something different than what the, nutritionist is telling them and what the trainer is telling them. And that maybe that was a part of some of the collaborative efforts that were not functioning the way they were supposed to. We keep hearing that. I think Chad Brinker, Ramon, and you were there, gave us specific examples of that. And that particularly being one of them of like, we need to have mental performance people talking to the trainer and talking to the strength coach. And we're going to implement a process and basically a database that's going to make all those conversations happen within the same system. So I think that's going to be really interesting to hear more from coming up in just a few minutes, and the way certain guys on the free agent market could fit into or not fit into the Titans' strategy in that.
And then, of course, it's always, he acknowledged this time and time again, and so did Rand in the conversation we had with him. All of this is fine and cute, but we need to win some games.
Yeah.
Like, that's the sense. Like, the plan works if you win games. You're given more grace to do more stuff and hire staff like this if you win games. It's just that the understanding of how you get to this point. And they also acknowledge, too, how far behind that the Titans were with that type of stuff.
Yeah.
And I think that's one of the more telling things where they're looking at guys. We speak about the injury stuff, right? Every year we've been talking, and this guy's injured. Well, we need to see how much guys are running.
Yeah, right.
The recovery time certain guys need. It was very telling.
So Jay Kuda put this out on Twitter over the weekend, at Jay Kuda, that home teams playing against AP top 10 men's college basketball teams not only were historically successful this year, but they have a winning record. Last night, that winning record continued as Texas Tech takes down Kansas. Bill Self gets ejected in the process, 79-50. The score of this one, as the number 6 team in the country goes down. And Darian Williams was terrific. 30 points on 12 of 12 shooting, including 4 3-pointers. The first NCAA player in the last 25 seasons with 30 points, 10 rebounds, and a perfect shooting percentage against a ranked opponent, according to ESPN Stats and Information. Home teams against AP top 10 teams that are unranked are now 34-32 in men's college hoops this season. That is phenomenal. And again, for clarity on what this looked like last year, unranked teams at home against AP top 10 teams were 19-59. This year, they are 34-32.
Golly. Portal playing a part of them extra years they're getting it. Yep. But it just raises the conversation of what it's going to look like in conference championships and also in the NCAA tournament and stuff like that. Like, I think the regional side of where your school gets sent as far as March Madness is going to play a huge part in it too. But you just look at this. We're talking about Texas Tech, unranked. 7-4 in their division right now is pretty much the same record as the Kansas Jayhawks, right? They're 7-5.
Yeah, they're a half game ahead of Kansas. They are in third in the Big 12 behind Iowa State and Houston.
But the biggest conversation, where was the game at?
Lubbock.
Exactly.
And without 2 really good players for Kansas as well, which is the other context that's important. Big 12 leading scorer Kevin McCullough Jr. was out, and DeJuan Harris out as well after rolling his ankle in Kansas's win over Baylor a couple days ago.
And I know basketball is one of those sports where one player can really change the entire tune of your season. I do get that. We're talking about Texas Tech versus Kansas. We're talking about Kansas, okay? The basketball school. I don't even realize, like, it took me a while to realize they had a football team, respectfully, okay? But, like, this is a school that's supposed to beat down Texas Tech at any point, and no matter where they are, no matter who's out. But to get rolled by almost 30 points is a tough look for Kansas Jayhawks teams. They're tier 2 now, or number 2 seed?
No, they're still, they're either 1 or a 2.
Yeah, I don't know. College basketball is tough, guys. I mean, it's such a long season, and these aren't necessarily super shocking to me during the season. I almost feel like teams have to have these moments. You know, I know Tennessee's had a couple now with South Carolina and Texas A&M. it's almost like they have to have a couple of these moments to really put them in check for being prepared for when it comes tournament time. Because when it comes down to it, yes, seeds do mean things.
They
absolutely. But it's hard to play that many games and just to continue to go on the road in situations where the crowd can be hostile. We're talking about home environments now. They're better than ever. It's tough to just keep a resume clear. And so it doesn't surprise me as much. Now the actual score, that's a little
30
different.
Piece, 29.
Yeah, that to me is like they came in here, Kansas did, and said, we're Kansas. We're Kansas. We're a dominant blue blood.
Yeah.
And they go in there and they look like they got wiped out of the gym. Like that to me is a little bit more of an embarrassment and not having your team prepared.
I ain't mad at the moment.
Right.
There's everybody's going to lose at some point, but 29 points.
That's
the part of it to where like the
issue.
standard of Kansas, I thought would have at least, if you told me they lost by 10, I live better with that than a 29 piece. Like y'all ain't even show up.
Texas Tech is a fringe top 25 team. They fell out of the new AP poll yesterday, despite a win on Saturday at home against UCF. But unranked Big 12 teams are now 9-3 at home against top 10 opponents this year. That's why 6th-ranked Kansas is only 2 games over 500 in Big 12 play. There is a bigger conversation there, too, on whether or not the SEC or the Big 12 has a better claim to being the best basketball conference this year. And that's a question we can ask SEC Network superstar Ron Slay.
Yeah.
Coming up in just over an hour. 615-737-1045 is our number. Coming up next, though, Chad Brinker sat down with Titans Radio and outlined some priorities for the Titans in free agency. We pair that up with what Mike Giannetti of Spot Track told us yesterday about 2 wide receivers, one via trade, one potentially via free agency, who might be good fits in Nashville. Hear that coming up next.
It's Ramon Foss for Artists and Custom Closets, man. And I'm here to tell y'all, get a jump on spring cleaning and transform your home into an oasis of calm like I will this year, okay? With Artists and Custom Closets, you can say goodbye to the clutter and say hello to custom storage solutions that are made to suit you, your style, and your budget, like that garage or office, okay? If you're tired of the unorganized chaos in your closet, garage, or office, let the experts at Artists and Custom Closets help you get organized in any space in your home, from walk-in closets to pantries, garages, and laundry rooms. Artists and Custom Closet is local. It's not a large chain business. Not only is it local, but their products are manufactured right here in the Southeast, so you may end up getting them quicker. It's not a cookie-cutter items, but customized for your home, garage, or whatever inside your home. So start with a free in-house design consultation and take advantage of their multiple financing options to make getting organized easier than ever. Schedule your consultation now. Bring some calm and get organized. If you go ahead and call 615-800-2199 or visit artisancustomclosets.com to book your appointment. That's artisancustomclosets.com.
When the president of football operations speaks, usually it's a good idea to listen, especially when that guy was promoted to president of football operations within the last month. It's RKW brewed by 8th and Rose. Ramon Foster, Kayla Anderson, Will Bolding on the phone lines at 615-737-1045. Some interesting stuff in the OTP. This was a week and a half ago, but a conversation that will be relevant throughout the entire offseason. And Ramon Foster, considering you were in the conversation, is it fair to say this is an interview people should be paying perhaps a bit more attention to?
Yes, especially going into the offseason, especially considering that a lot of people want to know how this thing is going to operate. And again, I'll say this too: the conversation that we've had with Chad Brinker and also ran to ain't a hey, let's put them up on a pedestal. I think they're going to hold themselves by their own selves to the fire as far as production. It gave you the answers you're looking for when it boils down to where this team was and where they want this team to go. That's what I got from Chad. That's what I got from Rand. And Chad Brinker's side of it to me was very interesting with it giving the DNA, the operation of what this is about to look like moving forward. And I think that was what's super unique. I don't think you'll find yourself doing the things that you did in years past.
Yeah, and it is all new. So it's like a reset for not only the organization, but for the fans to understand. And we do it too, like not the blame game, but now we look back and we're like, well, that was Vrabel's guy. Well, that was Rand's guy. Well, that was John Robinson's. Yeah. This makes it a lot easier to, at least if something doesn't go right or if something goes wrong, or if something goes wrong or if something goes right, you can actually kind of pinpoint, okay, this is probably, maybe you give a little more credit here, right? Yep. That's how it's organized and structured now. Mm-hmm. It's very nice.
And the other problem when the coach gets fired is that everyone who is bad is now officially a Vrabel guy, and everyone who is good is officially a Rand Carthon guy.
Correct. Yeah, that's true.
When you speak to people around the organization, wherever else, they're going to be more willing to talk about their success stories and why the previous guy was a part of the lack of success stories. Mm-hmm. I thought this was a specifically interesting answer from Chad Brinker about the process in front of the Titans and building through the draft. The interesting note here is the propensity to avoid day one of free agency. This was Chad Brinker, Titans president of football operations, on the official Titans podcast in a conversation that included Ramon Foster.
We talk about this a lot when you hire a new head coach or you're a new GM that comes into an organization. The first thing that you're going to deal with is the salary cap and free agency. And you better know the cap and you better know free agency. There's, at some point you kind of want to get out of the business of the first wave of free agency. You really want to build your team through the draft. I mean, that's Rand and I, that's our background. That's where we come from. Philosophically, we're built through the draft, develop our young players, and retain our core performers. I mean, that's as simple as that I can make it. A lot of teams are trying to do that. The execution part is the part where you separate yourself from everybody else. So you have to have a really good scouting process in place through free agency as well as through the draft. But, free agency is something that supplements your draft. You want to build the core of your roster, the core of your team through the draft. I mean, you look at some of the best teams in the league this year, whether it's Kansas City or San Francisco, who's getting ready to play in the Super Bowl, to what Baltimore and Detroit has done, the consistency in the Baltimore Ravens, and even from where I came from, Green Bay. I mean, that was the youngest team in the league this year. And they made a run. I mean, they gave San Francisco everything they had with a team, I think it was averaging about 24 years old as a roster.
So that is Chad Brinker, Titans president of football operations, on the official Titans podcast, saying we want to get out of the business of the first day of free agency. What else stands out from what he had to say there?
Building up this team through the draft, developing them and keeping your guys, and then just backing it up with the teams that were in the conference championships and also in the Super Bowl. The majority of those teams had their guys. Even the quarterbacks were, mostly their guys when you look at how they were built up. Kansas City, as much issues that they've had, they had a free agent left tackle, if I'm not mistaken, and their interior three that played in the game were their guys too. Defensively, mostly their guys. Detroit, he brought up. And I think it's super interesting with how he brought up Green Bay. That's where he comes from. And like I said, later on in the podcast, he also said this too. Every year you want to be drafting a guy that's a quarterback every 2 to 3 years. And I think that's how they got to Jordan Love. Yeah, was he a high pick? Yes, but he broke down like the analytics of why they decided to go to get Jordan Love is to sustain what they got right now. I think you look at the way the NFC would be challenged because you saw something come out of Jordan Love. The development, the surrounding him with talent, and the ability to sustain competition is what they've done there. That's what stood out to me.
Yeah, and Chad Brinker said it. And by the way, Chad Brinker in this OTP podcast did say, my background comes within scouting, which he'll still be doing a little bit of, but his duties have obviously been elevated with his new title. But execution of all this. So we can sit here and say that this is what we want to do, right? We want to build from within and we want to draft the right guys, but we really have to be able to execute it for this to be a reality. And I think that that's why it's so important right now that we're seeing the kind of foundation be laid and we're seeing what different people have in terms of their daily duties. And you're having a fresh start with a fresh head coach, for the most part, a fresh GM, and bringing these new ideas in the new age NFL. That to me is the biggest thing. They actually get that to move forward and to have consistent success in the NFL as the Tennessee Titans organization, they have to move forward into this century. And I just feel like while it worked in some ways with winning games under Vrabel and when J-Rob was here, that worked at the time for a little bit. But it's moved so rapidly with analytics and everything that you're doing. You weren't seeing the development of some of these draft guys. And maybe they didn't exactly draft the wrong guys. Maybe they just didn't develop them enough. And so I think this is refreshing. And it's got to be executed, guys. But it is refreshing to see that they are moving towards the new era of football.
Chad Brinker also said on the OTP that there are a number of 3rd and 4th round grades they have on players who elected to go back to school in 2024 because of name, image, and likeness. And that lines up exactly with what Jim Nagy, the executive director of the Senior Bowl, told us last week. He said 3rd and 4th round picks are where you start to see guys who would have been selected, who we invited to our bowl game, Jim Nagy told us, who are going back to school. Does that then have to change your draft philosophy as Rand Carthon, as Chad Brinker? Does the lack of day 2 and 3 talent mean, hey, we've got to use these picks differently? Or is the fact that everyone is being dealt the same hand mean that you don't change anything up? You just accept the fact that, look, we're not the only team being affected by the lack of day 2 and 3 talent in this year's draft.
I think it's both. I think this year, instead of going after a fullback, respectfully to fullbacks all across the world, you just say to yourself, well, let me go find possibly a wide receiver that I know is going to help us on special teams, instead of going to get that type of piece. Or if there's a year in which you can say later in this year's draft, what is possibly a kicker necessary for this team too, I'd much rather get him in the 6th round, because I know the other positions we don't have at a higher value because of that.
Someone you are more confident will make the team, even if it's at a position that's not particularly valuable.
Exactly. Most kickers aren't draftable positions. You usually get them either 6th, 7th round. You never take one, let's say, for the 5th round pick. I'm not taking one in the 5th. Some teams do. But this year, because the wide receivers may not be what you want them to be, I'd much rather get a punter or a kicker or something like that instead of just saying, oh, we got to go get this guy because he's going to make plays for us. If the evaluations say that those guys aren't in this draft in the latter part of it, which the Titans have a good bit of their picks in the later rounds, then you got to strategize different. I think there's still some talent there. And he also said it too, the development of those players mean more. So you probably got to change your mindset into who can we craft to be a Titan. That's one thing that they've said too, is getting a style of player here that you identify as a Tennessee Titan. That's what we're looking for, right? Like, that dude's a Titan. Yeah. The same way, and I bring it up often, as you can say certain stuff about him, but one thing you know is to be true. Roquan Smith was probably a Baltimore Raven. He just got drafted to the wrong team, right? And you look at Patrick Queen, a Raven. You look at these types of dudes on these types of teams, and you say, that fits their style. Cam Jordan with the New Orleans Saints, he's a Saint. You get it, right? Like, that's what you're looking. I think that's what they're trying to develop. So when it comes down to the lesser talent in this year's draft, you got to go find specific guys that might not actually fit your mold. And that was one of the things he said. You got to draft and say, screw what everybody else is thinking about. Kansas City went out and drafted a left-handed center. He's now a two-time champion.
Who was throwing Fred Warner out of the club onto the sideline on Sunday.
You know, like those, like they went and drafted a guy, and I bring them up because it's recent history right now. Trey Smith, low risk, high output, the medicals. So what? You got to go start getting guys. Karlaftis. I don't think Kansas City needed to go get Karlaftis. But they got him anyway. If there's somebody that fits what your team is, screw what the analytics is going to tell you. That guy fits what we're doing. And that's one of the things when they said they're getting to tiers as far as tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, and 1, 2, 3, and breaking it down as to how this team is trying to operate and build up his team. You can't look at what Kansas City is doing or what Houston just did or what the Colts is doing. This fits what we're going to do here in Nashville, and that's what I think they're setting up inside of that building.
Yeah, I mean, and you have to. I mean, they're resetting everything, and their vision is a particular vision, and you're right. You can't compare it. But you can at least say, hey, these teams have had success. There are little things that you can look at from all the teams of how they do things and say, these are kind of things we're going to pull. It's not going to be Kansas City 49ers. That's not their identity. They're going to find their own identity within this process of the new hires that they've made. And part of that, I think it was Rand Carthon when he joined the OTP podcast at the Senior Bowl or after the Senior Bowl. And he was saying that, was it him saying he was talking with some college coaches now? Like, it's the process is so different because you're right. A lot of these guys are going back. These later round talents, they're going back. And so you really have to have a future plan because it is going to change a little, I think. I don't know moving forward how great you're going to be able to get that prize in the 6th, 7th round or maybe even a 5th round. So you have to change the way you're doing things. This is why they're set up or hoping to be set up to have that success. They've just got the right pieces, it looks like, to be in the right places to do that because it is going to be ever-changing because college is ever-changing, and those guys are going directly to the NFL.
Titans president of football operations, Chad Brinker, also told Titans Radio on the official Titans podcast that the analytics department in that building is viewed kind of like a startup.
I know where we're going to be 3 years from now is definitely not where we are today. We hired Sarah Bailey from the Los Angeles Rams last year, and she has come in. I think it'd be great for the fan base to get to know her a little bit and what she's doing. She's really special. She's extremely smart, knows the game inside and out, has a mathematics background, statistics background, and has been really instrumental in getting this department off the ground. I kind of look at it as like a startup. To be honest, I mean, it's when we came in here, it just wasn't a whole lot, and there's a lot of work to do. Cleaning the data, getting it in a place, putting it in models where we can even run some of the analytics. So we are making progress as far as when it comes to predicting performance in the National Football League or athletic scores when it comes to all the combine numbers and all those things that come in. But we're eventually going to get to a spot where we're using AI and more advanced analytics. But we're not there yet. It's going to take some time to build that out. We will be adding to our department and evolving and growing that department with a few more analysts, data engineer, but at the same time, we want a department of doers. We're not looking to hire the MITs and Harvards, the very expensive, PhDs. We want people that's going to come in and actually work and be part of a startup community and try to build this thing from the ground up. So that's kind of where it's at. But how does the sports science fit in? There's a model that you'll see in the military as well as in some other sports. They call it sometimes the integrated high performance model or maybe the athletic performance model. And what that essentially is trying to, people probably, as I explain this, think, wow, they don't do that yet, but it's real. I mean, it's the National Football League, and there are teams that are doing this, but not all of them are doing it. And we're moving in this direction where you're going to have someone who is really ahead of athletic training, ahead of rehab, ahead of sports science, ahead of nutrition, ahead of mental health. Well, how do we get all those departments working together and holistically working together and keeping the athlete at the forefront?
So that's Chad Brinker, Titans president of football operations. And if it sounded like that's kind of cut off in the middle of an answer. It's because it is. And he continues to go on for 2-3 more minutes and more time than we have right now. And you need to go check out that interview, the official Titans podcast, the OTP, wherever you download podcasts. I think that specifically, though, guys, is a good way to break down what analytics does for an NFL franchise. It's a lot more than just, hey, the percentages on our chart say in this down and distance at this time of the game, at this score, go for it or don't go for it. That really is the tip of the iceberg. It's like watching one pass play and saying, oh, this is what all pass plays are used for. Everything's 4 verticals. No, you've got a little play action. You've got a little slant over the middle, right? I think that is practical knowledge on something that is so theoretical for us as sports fans. Or we say analytics and throw that out there without really knowing what it means. I think the interesting part of that, though, guys, is that it's going to take probably about 3 years to build up an algorithm and artificial intelligence that the franchise feels like can work for them.
Yeah, and so one of the things as far as analytics and artificial intelligence, one of the conversation was about a particular wide receiver, and they knew he could be a stud. They absolutely knew he had it in him. And in that conversation, he said it was a matter of him losing 1 or 2 pounds. And from that guy turned into an all-pro player. Like, that's how deep and in-depth it can go, because that 1 or 2 pounds effect, that might have been 1 to 5 pounds, but still, it's a matter of this player fits the mold of this guy right here. And because of that, if he drops down to this weight, the durability, his conditioning, and everything is going to change. You're probably, that's 1 or 2 pounds. But that 1 or 2 pounds during the week could be water retention that you don't necessarily need because you have a pound too much of fat on you. That could be the ability to not pull a hamstring. And those are the things that I think you're looking at. And again, when it's proven that it can work, that's when you got to somewhat believe it. And that's where the science and the artificial, the AI aspect of it plays a part into football. And that also may mean you may cut a guy earlier than you think you might have to. Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, you look at what happened with him now, that 1 year, that 4-play Achilles injury. And you look at what Green Bay somewhat has in Jordan Love. And if you're not somewhat convinced, like, yeah, I think Green Bay may have gotten it right, then you'll never believe that this stuff is going to work.
615-737-1045 is our number. More reaction to that and what Mike Giannitti had to say yesterday about 2 wide receivers who could be available via trade. We asked the question as it pertains to the Titans. Do you use your draft picks differently, knowing what Chad Brinker just told us about 3rd and 4th round picks going back to school instead of going to the NFL draft? Well, there are a couple of wide receivers you could obtain by trading some of your day 2 and 3 picks. We'll get to that next on RKW.
Valentine's is coming up tomorrow, y'all. Hey, y'all need to get on this, okay? And if you're looking for the most thoughtful romantic gift, though, for the one that you love this Valentine's, 2 words: Genesis Diamonds. Maybe it's a simple pendant or an exquisite, one-of-a-kind designer ring. Genesis can help you pick out the most memorable and special piece of jewelry for the occasion. And to make it even sweeter, now to Valentine's Day, whether you spend $199 or $199,000, Genesis will give you some chocolates, fresh flowers, and a dinner out at no extra charge. This is a great deal, okay? And it's a one-stop shop for the ultimate Valentine's experience. When you buy any piece of beautiful jewelry, they will give you some beautiful flowers from Jenny's Florist, some yummy chocolates, and a gift card for dinner at STK Steakhouse. So stop wasting time. Get to Genesis Diamonds. They've got a spectacular collection of memorable romantic gifts from $199 to $199,000. And right now, they're going to throw in some chocolates, flowers, and dinner out at no extra charge. Happy Valentine's Day from Genesis Diamonds. They're located in Green Hills and Cool Springs.
Ramping up hour number 3 on your Tuesday morning edition of RKW Brewed by 8th and Roast. Coming up in 15 minutes, we'll give you an inside look at a new way to watch football in Nashville. Need we say more? The OGs of this city will understand and appreciate it. 615-737-1045, our number. Piggybacking off the conversation Chad Brinker had, president of football operations for the Titans, on the OTP with Titans Radio about staying out of day one of free agency this upcoming offseason. Mike Giannitti of Spot Track told us about one wide receiver who is not a free agent, but could be made available this offseason, a guy who was in San Francisco with Rand Carthon and former Arizona State wideout Brandon Ayuk.
I think it's an excellent fit, and I think without a doubt that Brandon Ayuk's name is going to be in trade rumors over the next couple of weeks as we approach that March 13th date. So, what does it take? The problem is he's been kind of pigeonholed, right? He's the fifth option on an unbelievably explosive 49ers offense. So, you're bringing a player in who's going to outkick his coverage quickly. He's going to become a number one, number two option wherever he ends up, and that's going to cost upwards of $22-25 million a year. It's just the going rate for that second-tier, third-tier wide receiver that has a higher ceiling. So from a draft pick compensation standpoint, you're in that second to third round range, but knowing what kind of contract is coming behind that after the fifth-year option season, it's not an easy undertaking for an organization, but don't get there's at least a half a dozen teams thinking about this exact scenario right now.
Are the Titans a fit to potentially trade for Brandon Ayuk?
Are they a fit for him? They need him. But the price tag, $25 million, that he's going to bring with is where it becomes problematic. If you're trying to spend what Chad said, not trying to avoid that first wave of free agency, and that would be, in my eyes, consideration of it would be considered, in my eyes, a first wave of free agency. Now, if he's your guy, then I have no problem with that. It's almost like the same move that the Jacksonville Jaguars made with their wide receiver years back. Goodness, the free agent from Arizona.
One?
The free agent from Arizona.
Calvin Ridley, Christian Kirk.
Christian Kirk, and gave him a lot of money.
Yeah, Christian Kirk. That's similar to Christian Kirk to me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I look at this as, shoot, if this is an option, by the way, his girlfriend, I guess recently in the last day, kind of hinted that we might not be back here. And she was on some posts kind of talking and maybe mentioned that. So another kind of thing to fuel up the flames here when it comes to him not maybe coming back to San Francisco. Connection with Rand Carthon, absolutely. You've got that. Rand Carthon knows him, not only what he can do X's and O's, which is phenomenal, and I think that would help better that Titans room, absolutely, but knows him off the field too. Would this be the right fit? Is this a guy really we want to bring in? It seems like it. And you were talking about that first wave, Ramon. Yeah. I wonder too, like right now, are they still in that kind of mode that we really got to build our team though right now? We want to get to that part where we're not going to necessarily have to do free agency in the first wave, but right now we kind of need bodies and we need personnel that's going to help us win games. So maybe they look at that as a special situation this year with a guy like that if Ayuk becomes available, because I just think 25 years old and he's been productive as like that third or fourth guy. I just think it would be a really good fit.
I do too.
I mean, I'd rather have Brandon Ayuk than a receiver in the second round.
Yeah.
It makes it easier to operate, doesn't it?
Like, is it worth giving up a 2 for Brandon Ayuk?
Ooh.
Probably not. Not for this team right now,
tough,
considering the interior offensive line needs you have. But I think it's worth considering. If they had a third rounder, I think the Titans would be the best fit for Brandon Ayuk.
Correct.
If they had a third round pick.
Yeah, because having a conversation, I was typing back and forth with people in F&M Bank chat about center. What's to be said or done about the center position, And I think second round pick, but it'd be better to have that if you had a third round pick also.
Absolutely. Do you think there's any way, guys, that this is a situation like third round? We keep coming back to this. It's so valuable. Like that's what makes me think like they still really could trade down and still get their offensive tackle because there are so many.
There are.
And try to pick up that third round. It's so freaking valuable, and this is not the year to not have one.
A caller just presented the question, what if you threw Burks in the trade where San Francisco would get something back from it? Would that knock down the price enough for you guys to make that feel like that would be comfortable doing that.
I don't think so. I don't think Traylon Burks has any value right now.
If you move Traylon, if you get Ayuk, that pushes Traylon down to 3 potentially with D-Hop still here.
Mm-hmm.
If we're being honest about it.
I mean, it'd be great to offload Burks at this point, but I just
What's the
don't
value?
think he has much value at all.
A question from me, would this trade have to happen before the draft, or is this something that they could wait and ponder on and potentially see if they could trade back to get more picks from 7?
The Brandon Ayuk contract decision, I believe, will have already been made. And Mike Giditti did reference that in that quote. I believe it's a March 13th deadline on when that contract becomes fully guaranteed, if I'm not mistaken, and when they would have the opportunity to restructure that or just give him an extension. And I think that's probably the most likely scenario, is that San Francisco gives Brandon Ayuk a 4-year extension that lowers the cap number on a fully guaranteed 50-year option. That, to me, is most likely because they can give him an extension, pay him more over 3 or 4 years at a $20 million average or a $25 million average. Likely they'd get a couple million in a hometown discount, yet they could make that cap hit about half of what it is going into 2024.
And they can make that work because they've got Brock Purdy on
That's correct.
a quarterback contract.
Yes.
It just seems like he wants to go be somewhere where he's used a little more.
Well, he had 1,300 yards this year.
Yeah, I understand that, but
But you also can operate better when you got a rookie quarterback. But, again, that first wave and not being foolish with money. If he's going to be a long-term guy, I'd say screw it. Make it work for you.
25.
He'd be number 2 here behind Hopkins.
Yep.
2? I'm giving him 1.
You're giving him 1, okay.
Based on the kind of wide receiver each of them are.
Okay.
Brandon Ayuk to me, and listen, you can be a slot and be a number 1.
Mm-hmm.
But it feels like Ayuk is more the guy they would move around. Or, I mean, DeAndre Hopkins, the guy they could move around. I mean, it's another 1A, 1B, and that's what the Titans need. They need to come out of this offseason with another guy who, on a given day, can be the number 1 receiver. 615-737-1045. Coming up, a new way to watch football in Nashville. Details next.
It's Ramon and Kayla here for Window Nation. It's probably that time of the year or the month. You guys have probably just gotten that January bill, man. You probably thinking to yourself, what in the heck can I do to improve this? I'm going to tell you this right now. New windows. Go inside of your house, touch your windows. And if it feels like the outside of your house, you got a problem on your hands. You need new windows. It's that simple, Kayla. It's cold, it's hot, it's whatever the weather is going to decide is going to be that day. But sure up the inside of your house by securing it with new windows from Window Nation.
Yeah, and you might be thinking, okay, just moved here, house is pretty young, right? 10 years old maybe, and you're just guessing my windows are in tip-top shape. That is actually not the case. Go and check your windows out. Like Ramon said, touch them, open them this time of the year when we got a little bit warmer weather. See if they're opening properly. If not, you probably need new windows from Window Nation. Condensation, if you're seeing that, that means you need new windows from Window Nation. And the energy bills, that's the biggest thing. Everybody wants to save when it comes to their bills. And you can do that by keeping the heat in this time of the year, by keeping the AC in when it gets really hot here in the summer months. So go check out our friends of Windows Nation. The average installer over 16 years of experience. They do it the right way. So it's just pretty simple. You can call 866-90-NATION or just go online to windownation.com.
9 o'clock. Good morning from the 104.5 The Zone Studios. I am Robert Walsh. After winning back-to-back Super Bowls, including 3 in the last 5 years, head coach of the Kansas City Chiefs, Andy Reid, confirmed that he would be returning for his 12th season in Kansas City to go for 3 in a row. No team has ever won 3 Super Bowls in a row in NFL history. The Cowboys are expected to hire Mike Zimmer as their defensive coordinator. Zimmer is the third winningest head coach in Vikings history and a long-respected defensive coach. A big hire for Dallas. Zimmer previously coached in Dallas from 1994 to 2006. And Pittsburgh made some moves yesterday to get some much-needed cap space, releasing quarterback Mitch Trubisky, offensive lineman Chuks Okafor, and punter Presley Harvin. The moves make about $12 million for Pittsburgh, but when considering top 51 roster rules, the Steelers have about $7.5 million to still figure out over the cap. For your foundation repair and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and the Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Fourth and final hour of the show starts right now on RKW, brewed up by 8th and Roast, Ramon, Kayla, and Will. With Ramon Foster and Kayla Anderson, I'm Will Bowling. Robert Walsh, our producer. Ron Slay coming up in 20 minutes, talking SEC hoops and some Vols, our 3HL and SEC network teammate. Will stop by with us coming up in 20 minutes. But right now, we've got 2 very special guests in studio as we discuss a new way to watch football in Nashville that also will feel a little bit like an old way to watch football in Nashville. We've got Laverne Brown and Sissy Brown here in studio with the Nashville Cats dance team. You guys are on the hunt.
Yes.
For people to be involved with the new Nashville Cats. Good morning. Welcome.
Good morning. Thank you for having us.
Yes,
Absolutely. So tell us about what you guys are doing. This is so cool. I love seeing like Nashville Cats merch starting to circulate around Nashville. This used to be a way you could differentiate like, okay, this person is not a transplant that's come in the last 5 years.
Right.
Exactly.
Now we will all be included in the umbrella of the Nashville Cats.
Well, yes, so we are preparing for the relaunch of the Cats organization. So excited about that. Those of you who are new to Nashville, welcome. Make sure that you all come check us out. Those that have been here know what to expect. You're just going to have, it's just an exciting time, lots of fun. And with that, we are looking to have our dancers, be a part of this whole organization, relaunch of the Nashville Cats dance team. So we're having auditions coming up, and we are looking for some amazing women that can dance, have lots of energy, lots of showmanship, just want to have fun and love football.
Sissy, I know you were telling us when you originally were going to try out, you wanted to try out for the Nashville Cats
For the
dance
Cats,
team.
back in the day. I'm
Back
telling
in the
my
day.
age.
Now,
Yes.
you cheered for the Titans.
I did.
What's different about arena football,
Oh.
that environment, compared to like a big stadium?
It's more electric. Of course, it's indoors. It's only 50 yards. There's no fourth down. So whenever you're playing, you have to play for a first down every time. There's no sideline. So whenever you go out the side, you hit the wall. There's if the ball goes up into the stands, they get to keep the ball. At the end of the game, they get to get their ball signed and everything. But it's just the excitement is unimaginable until you go and actually experience a Cats game, and then you kick a field goal. If you miss it, it's a play. The other team can run it. It's just nonstop action. There's no pauses in the game, and that's what makes it. For me, I prefer AFL over NFL.
Hey, that's messed up.
I do.
That's messed up.
I mean, I cheer for the Titans,
kid,
and
I
maybe
kid,
if
I
it was a
kid.
dome,
Sure.
Right.
then it might have been
Climate
different.
control. Climate control is great.
That's the best part. Climate control is everything.
So
Very
when it
true.
comes down to the to the prospects that y'all are looking for, what's going to be the requirements and also the schedule? I know it's a 10-game schedule.
It is.
And you guys told us earlier it's 10 home games. Also,
6 home games.
6 home games.
Yes. Uh-huh.
So what are going to be the requirements and restraints that you guys are looking for as far as people to come out and try for the cheer team?
Well, one thing we're looking for, and I'm just going to be real with you ladies, you have to be fit. You have to be fit. You have to have stamina. Because arena football, you dance after every play.
Every play.
Every play, the music comes on. We have a live DJ. He's up there at the top. It's a whole performance thing for the girls. So your stamina is important. The way that you look is important. Be willing to change up your look. If Laverne and I feel like you need a little changing up, you have to be able to retain choreography really, really well. You have to be able to engage with the fans. You have to be able to speak because we do interviews. We have appearances and things like that. You just have to be a well-rounded woman. Am I missing anything?
No,
Laverne?
I think that is perfect, spot on. So all those things. And then just, have a great personality. We're going to be together a lot. So with rehearsals.
No drama is what you're saying. Say it, Laverne. I'll say it, buddy. No drama is what we're looking for.
But we're just just looking for some great people to come and be part of this great organization.
And we're looking for 16 women.
Okay.
We're with Nashville Cats have partnered with TSP Creative. Ryan Mag he's our creative director, so he is involved in it. And when I tell you, ladies, we are going to be the premier dance team in Nashville.
Come on.
The first ladies of Nashville is what it's going to be. When I tell you that, I mean just the sponsorships that we've received already and the things that the ladies are going to receive. This is an occupation. This is an actual job. You're going to make great money, but it is a job. It's not a side hobby the way that TSP and Ryan have set it up. So we want you guys to come out this Saturday at Lipscomb Academy.
Yes, Saturday Lipscomb Academy. Registration starts at 8 o'clock. From 8 to 9. Must have photo ID. And, you'll fill out your registration form there and just be ready to dance. Come dressed appropriately and be ready to,
And the
dance
finals will
and
be
sweat.
on Sunday. It's just this weekend.
Yeah.
We're picking the team Sunday. Kayla's going to be a judge.
Yes,
On
judge for us.
Saturday.
You
Yes.
didn't tell us.
She's
girl.
judging.
So I just loved what you said about the competition. First of all, it is not cheer, it's dance.
It is.
I was a dance team captain at my high school. We're very competitive. And to be the best, I understand what that is because we always wanted to be looked at seriously.
Yes.
Correct.
And we even kind of competed with the cheer. Like, hey, we're dance team. Like, we go out there, our routines are on point. Like,
Yes.
our choreography is set together. So I think it's important to note, like, these girls are competitive.
Yes. And they also have best dance team in the AFL. So
Ooh.
that's
We're
a
trying
little
to get that.
competition
Yes,
that we're
yeah.
going to have
Within
going on
AFL.
with our first year being back here. So
Love it.
we just are looking for some great girls, and we're going to have a great time this weekend because, you're going to learn choreography. You get to showcase your own skills, and then we choose the semifinalists for the afternoon, which Kayla's going to judge, and then she's going to choose the finalists for Sunday, and then we're going to pick the team.
So what are you asking as far as a routine that they have to come with also? Because that would be if, I was a lady and I was looking to do this type of thing. How long does my routine have to be and what type of prep are you looking for when they show up?
So you do not have to come with a routine prepared.
Okay.
You're going to learn everything from us. Mostly Sissy. But you're gonna learn everything from us. And the only thing that you would come with is just like maybe a little extra.
What you do.
Yeah.
Okay.
Show us what
Can
you do.
flip? Can you tumble? Can you do double turns? Can you leap? Can
If
you
not-
extend your leg and, do all the dance moves?
But don't let that scare you. Right. But don't let that.
Ramon, put your hand down. You're going to pull a hamstring.
Your face and everything.
Soft tish guys. Let's get that figured out. That's my
But
verbal
if you
insight.
cannot do all those things, that's okay. You just come in with great personality and great showmanship because that goes a long way. Because you can leap, do 1,000 leaps across the floor, but have no performance and no showmanship. That's not going to work. So we can't teach that part to you.
And please go to catsfootball.com and click on with a K
Yep.
and click
National
on the
Cats
dance team because we really want you to follow the directions on what we expect you to wear and things like that. Because some people, let's be real, some ladies come with just a T-shirt and some jogging shorts and some little flippy shoes, and it's like, no, we need the look for what you want us to see you as. We need that on Saturday.
Yep, the vision.
Okay. The other thing too, the way you guys' schedule is set up, you'll be done close
June
to the end of
29th.
June.
Okay.
Yes.
Is this possibly a situation where you can segue this into a Tennessee Titans situation too, or at least the experience can expand further than just the Cats right now, since the season is through the summer?
Well, no.
Okay.
Because it's June 29th. Once that's done, the Titans team has already been chosen.
Oh, okay.
So they're
Yeah.
already practicing
Okay.
and ready to go into preseason. But I don't think the girls, once they make our team, they're not going to want to go anywhere else. Real talk.
I love that. That's what I was looking
Real
for
talk.
right
And
there.
look at you.
Yeah.
You be
Little
messy.
answer game.
He's
So
digging.
Just a little mess.
If you're like Robert, leave your Crocs at home.
Yes.
And Lipscomb Academy this weekend, the place to be.
It is.
Yeah,
Outstanding.
so
excited.
Also, the players' tryouts are the following weekend.
That's
at
right.
Lipscomb
Okay.
Academy.
Perfect.
And you don't have to have experience there either.
What if you do have experience?
I'll be there.
You gotta,
You need to be out there
That's what
coaching
I
something,
was
Ramon.
gonna
I
say.
wish I would. Absolutely not, man.
No coaching for you?
No coaching
Oh,
for me.
man.
But here's to all the dudes that come up to me and be like, hey, you want to hit a pass set? Hey, Saturday, next weekend, get
There you
out
go.
there. If you know how many people have come up to me and say, you want to get a one-on-one? Now you got your
Well,
opportunity.
you need to tell them
okay?
where to go.
There you go. Tell
Yeah,
'em
next
where to go.
weekend, you
I
said,
love it.
for the
The
fellas.
24th
Fellas.
at the same place.
At the
Lipscomb
same-
Academy.
There you go.
Put these paws on a few of them. They won't ask that question no more.
Exactly.
Laverne Brown and Sissy Brown have been our guests. TheNashvilleCats.com, KATS/dance-team, the place you can go to find out more about this and about them. Guys, thank you so much.
Thank you for having us.
Go
Can't wait.
Cats.
Kayla, see you Saturday.
Can't wait, guys.
Love it. Coming up, Ron Slay in studio talking a little bit of SEC hoops on the other side. Tuesday morning rolls on at RKW, brewed by 8th and Roasted. If you have come to the program knowing what 9:20 on Tuesday means, then do we have a segment for you? His name is Ron Slay. He has been in Las Vegas. He's been in Charlotte. He's been on your television set and on your radio dial, and he is in studio right now.
I'm everywhere, Will.
At 104.5 The Zone, WGFX FM, Gallatin, Nashville, a Cumulus station. What's up, Ron Slay? How are you?
Darn, that was a lot right there.
Yeah, it was.
Hey, Gallatin. No, okay, that's what's up. I didn't even know that part of the station, Will. I
That's
like
right.
that. Yeah, good job.
Hey, just stick around. He gonna learn. You
Yeah, I know my boy teach something, man. I'm good, man. You know what I mean? Finally got
rested
some
up?
good rest. I did. Last night I went to sleep at 9:30.
Good for you.
Slept almost all the way through the night. Woke up, paid the water bill a couple times, but then other than that, straight back to sleep. Slept all the way through till about 6. So that was good.
That's
good,
real.
good.
That's a real good night because you a
rest.
night owl out
Yeah,
here.
I
I know, I was
can't go
gonna
down.
say.
Yeah, I just that last night. Ooh, thank God for gummies.
Yeah.
Hey boy,
They lay my boy down.
Hey boy, lay down, lay down.
Dinosaurs or Scooby-Doo?
Yeah.
Yeah,
All them
okay,
too,
cool.
yeah. All them too. All them
Sour.
too.
He's seen
both of them.
Ron Slay was
Yeah,
riding the
one of
Mystery
them.
Machine last
You
night.
better believe it. Yeah. Hey,
No
man,
doubt.
some good rest, though, man. After a long week, we had a good time in Super Bowl with some great interviews. And, the good thing about Super Bowl, when you're doing Radio Row, you always get different walks of life, and you don't know what they're talking about. And you get an opportunity in that 10-minute segment, sometime longer, to kind of understand their journey. You know what I'm saying? And it's interesting, man, the magnet that sports is, to be able to bring everybody together. That's dope, man. Sports and music is some really, really cool things, man, because when you look around, politics is that divides you, religion divides you, you know what I'm saying? So you got something like this to hang on to. It's pretty dope seeing everybody in the same room. So.
And the connections are all like interwoven
Oh,
too,
yeah.
because I think you had the Jacksonville Jaguars owner's son on, who
Yep.
has his own league in wrestling, and I'm just
AEW,
like,
yep.
whoa! I had no idea that Khan's son was in the wrestling sort of business.
Yep, and he started it when he from an idea when he was 12 years old.
That's what I heard.
You know what I'm saying? And this, I think what he said, 290th episode or something from that idea.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Wow.
So it's dope, man. Different walks of life, man.
know what's even cooler?
What?
Is he dreamed of something and he just went simply, "Hey, Dad."
Yes. Give me some money.
You know what? Go try
Give
it.
me
Go
some
test it out. Yeah, go test it out.
Go
see what
test
you
it.
can get.
I love it. I'm not in any way mad at
No,
it.
that's what it's about.
Yeah.
But
That's what it's about.
and what's so crazy? I keep telling people, like, people trying to think of like the quickest get rich scheme. Like, nah, it's the simplest stuff.
Yep.
He wrote scripts for something that he dreamed of, and now, I mean, he had the resources. That definitely
Right.
pays dividends.
That didn't hurt.
But, chase your dreams is what I'm saying.
Yeah, no doubt. And he's a prime example of it and what it can look like. So salute to them.
Yeah.
Little bit of breaking news this morning from Greenville, Tennessee, on Tennessee and Virginia versus the NCAA.
We got a verdict already?
Kind of.
Oh.
Not really, though.
Oh, okay.
From Tyler Whetstone, who is an investigative reporter for the Knoxville News Sentinel, there will be no ruling coming today on the Tennessee-Virginia injunction. The judge will issue one in, quote, short order, likely in a few days, as exactly what Austin Price told us earlier this morning. Not a decision happening today.
Okay.
Judge is going to hear some arguments, hear some conversation, and then deliberate. And in short order, there will be a decision on Tennessee and Virginia against the NCAA.
Man, he's worse than that groundhog.
No, I know.
Figure it out, man. Which one is it?
Did Judge Corker find
We're gonna have
his shadow?
Shadow.
615-737-1045.
Did he find his gravel?
You can honestly argue
Did
that
find his gravel.
there are a lot of people in Washington who are, like Punxsutawney Phil, rodents. So, honestly, there's a pretty good comparison there.
What is wrong with you?
Anyway.
Hey,
When he just, there's not much that can make Ron Slay
got Slay on.
speechless, but
Hey,
sometimes
Willie,
my
boy.
terrible humor does.
Nah, that's all right, Willie. I like it.
My brain is not very big, nor is it very smart, but sometimes it elicits at least a speechless response from the hardest working man in show.
That's great.
that
Let
and the
it fly.
immaculate grid.
Oh, I haven't done that yet
See
today.
what I'm saying?
Thanks.
There he is.
There it is.
Yeah, you know what it takes.
Late today.
Tampa
what
Bay
it takes.
Rays and San Diego Padres, Blake Snell. Okay, Ron Slay, we were
I ain't got
talking
a
about
clue.
it earlier that
Got a clue.
Thank you. Home teams that are unranked this season are 34 and 32 against AP top 10 teams.
Yeah.
Why?
man, it's different going on the road, man. A lot of these teams are getting beat on the road, and it's like you get an opportunity in these conferences to bolster your resume, and it's all leading to hoping the committee is watching. You know what I'm saying? Like it used to be about your pre-conference. You know what I'm saying? Before getting your non-conference games, and now the strength is in your conference is so strong. Like it's like Big 12, Big 10, Big East, SEC, so forth and so on. You can make up ground. And I think that's what people are looking at. You know, you get these teams highly ranked coming in with a target on their back, and we want some. That's what they're telling them. So you're able to go get quad 2 wins, quad 1 wins in conference, night in and night out. Hey, man, you all right. That's why you look at what Stackhouse was saying, too, early in the year, man. We're just going to get a whole bunch of cupcakes, if you will, in the non-conference schedule and try to get wins. Now, it didn't happen that way, but that was the ideal because you could make up for it when conference play rolls around. And, you know, you get a guy missing out of the lineup or banged up a little bit, people taking advantage of it. Mm-hmm. You know, these guys that's coming in out of the transfer portal, they're bolstering these lineups a little bit, and you can make that change with one guy in basketball. So a little bit different in football. You got to go to transfer portal, get 12 guys and different positions, hope they work. You can get one guy, man. If that piece fits, you on your way. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I think you have to look at. And then there's some really good coaches in these conferences too. You know what I'm saying? They done seen you got a younger crop of coaches coming along. They've seen these guys on the way up. And these big name coaches like Bill Self, when they walking in there, man, they want to beat the team and him too. Yeah. So it's a part of it, man.
And Bill Self's Kansas team lost by 29 points at Texas Tech. They're only 2 games over 500, Slay, but they are right on the outside looking in of a number 1 seed, as is Tennessee, who lost by double digits at Texas A&M over the weekend. And I thought it was interesting when Rick Barnes was asked, am I concerned about what happened? And he said, only if we don't take something from it.
Right.
Because it's college basketball.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like if you go to the NFL as a college coach and you're thinking to yourself, I just hate losing, and I throw fits when my team loses. I hate to tell you, you're going to lose a lot, and you still have a chance to win a championship. And the same can be said about college basketball.
It's a guarantee. And I think that's the most difficult thing about it, man. When you spill over from football and you're on edge the entire season, one game can make or break your season. You're like, oh, man, it's over. Like, you still got 6 games left to play in football. Like, you sure it's over? But basketball, you lose one game, I promise it's okay. Like, everybody's going to lose. The only team, man, UConn. That's the only team out there with 2 losses. I mean, and they're rolling.
That's incredible,
now,
too.
And, you know, I mean, credit to them as well as them being in that conference that they are in. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're not in the SEC. Even though the Big East looks good, but they're not in the SEC. They're not in the Big 12, not in the Big 10. Like, these are conference ACC as well. Like, you got an opportunity to get knocked off where you're not the big dog. And I don't think, like, it's funny, man, trying to converse with Vols fans on Twitter. Sometimes, boy, it just make you laugh. You know what I mean? I can't even put a laughing emoji every now and then. It's like, now, do y'all expect to go undefeated? Like, do you actually expect to go undefeated? You look at the Texas A&M loss, and do you know who was picked second in the preseason?
Yes, they were.
It was A&M. Do you know who the SEC preseason player of the year was? It's Wade Taylor. Like, this is not a bad team. They were just banged up and hurt. This may have been, I said it on our show, like this may have been their first full week of having everyone healthy.
You did. I heard you say
it's simple.
Yeah.
Boots Radford is back. Now you really have Batman and Robin. You know, and you have everybody else that loves to play their role, rebound the ball. You got a guy coming in, man, averaging, had 9 offensive rebounds. Tennessee, I think, had 12. Ooh. This is one human being that doesn't start. Like they had 3 Tobey Walkers running around on their team. You know what I mean? Like it's weird, man.
Dennis Rodman is what they had.
Now every bit of it. Like Garcia, he's behind Zach Edey in rebounds, and he doesn't start. Plus Zach Edey is 7'2". Mm-hmm. Like this dude's only like 6'7". Cannot block him out. It's different.
One other quick note before we continue on college hoops about this injunction hearing as we get more info in real time. The hearing has already concluded. So that preliminary hearing is over, and now they wait for the judge to rule on the injunction, which could come at any time. So anyway, sorry to interrupt.
On the other side, we talked Saturday before you went on set, and I was asking you, Michigan State was favored over number 10 Illinois.
Yeah.
Is this the same conversation that's being had in the Big Ten too? And you said, what about Michigan State? They're getting their guys back for the first time.
Yep, that's it.
And
that's
they smacked Illinois.
And Illinois is a really good team. You know what I'm saying? They got their star Terry Shannon Jr. back. But that's what it is. You got to go on the road, man. And people welcoming you into their homes is different now. Fans are a little bit louder, and I think the ADs have done a terrific job by putting fans more so around the court. When I mean, not fans, students around the court. That brings a different atmosphere to it. As much as people say, "Oh man, we're blocking out the noise." No, you're not. You're not blocking out the noise.
Not
How
even
do you
a little
handle it? Yeah, not a little bit. Not with these students. These students are obnoxious. You know what I'm saying? And they waiting for 6, 7, 8 hours to get in. Yeah, so it's a real live atmosphere when you go and win on the road. That's why wins on the road should almost count as double, damn near. Like you look at it, it might be a team like an example. I think A&M is not highly ranked in their net, but for you to go get a victory down there, it's almost a quad one win if I'm not mistaken. You know what I'm saying? So and that's not bottom tier, that's middle tier of the SEC right now. So I mean, it's different, man. You got to go win on the road, and everybody got to get healthy. These coaches understand that. It's part of the game.
And just conference to conference, y'all had a post-game interview with Arkansas's Keon
Minifield.
Minifield. And it was fascinating. You talk about the differences in conferences and the expectation of play, physicality.
Yep.
Is what he was talking about. You want to revisit what he told you had to go through?
Yeah, so I asked him, man, like, what's the biggest difference for you coming from Pac-12, coming to the SEC, and what's your adjustment been like? He was like, man, we got to get in the weight room. Like the conditioning and the strength, the physicality is totally different. And we've been saying that for years. Like that's one of the biggest differences. When you come to the SEC, it's not only in football. Like that stuff spills over on the court, man. Like we were doing these same workouts as the football team were. You know what I'm saying? So why wouldn't we be as physical? You look at the Big Ten, it's the same thing. Tom Izzo, man, put football pads on his players. If y'all don't want to box out and have physical contact, all right, let's get the helmets and the shoulder pads. You ain't got no reason not to run into each other. You're protected. Let's go. Let's get up here, and that's a part of it, man. And if you don't understand, like when you get to the NCAA tournament, that's what I think the SEC holds an advantage of. Big 12 as well, not Big 10 really, but just so many different styles of play. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Like you'll go up against a Florida that wants to get up and down. You'll go up against a Kentucky that doesn't want to do anything but score, get up and down the court. But then you'll play a Tennessee or a Texas A&M, and it's a physical battle. You know what I'm saying? They may not even shoot a three. Same thing for Mississippi State. Like you got guys that look like defensive ends. LSU has a point guard coming off the bench that should be playing outside linebacker. And Hannibal, like the man is huge. And so you're like, whoa, man, this is a different. And I saw that in Minifield, like he finally got his groove and had a good game coming off the bench. And I knew that had to be a reason of it because you got to get used to the physicality. Even coming out of non-conference when you're a freshman, you get to conference and it's like, whoa, these dudes are here. They strength a little different. You know what I'm saying? And that's from guards all the way down to the big men. So. Yeah, that was interesting. Interesting take to hear him talk about that from there.
You've got to keep that too, the stamina from start to finish. I mean, that's the other thing. I mean, this is a grueling schedule, especially in the SEC. Yep. And Tennessee played a really difficult non-conference schedule, right. And a lot of these teams are doing that nowadays. I'm curious your take on this. So I saw this firsthand at Gonzaga, a team that I follow very closely back home. Transfer portal can be great.
Right.
But sometimes what can mess up a team in a transfer portal is getting in the wrong transfer. Mm-hmm. And that chemistry with the team, it can be a great player. But if it doesn't work with what you have, that's a problem. Yeah. And I've seen it a little bit there in the past couple of years with a couple guys. And I'm just wondering your take on that. Like, how do you know you get it right?
You don't.
Because it's like you're really looking for that one or two players.
And that's all you need. And that's, I think you see, in looking in the mirror, you look at that with Arkansas. I think that's Arkansas's problem. You know, they went to the portal, tried to get guys. They brought L. Ellis from Louisville. Minifield also is another guy. But they brought all the guys that kind of play the same, thinking that one would be able to adjust on the fly and play point guard. Gonzaga's the same thing. Like you see the fall off a little bit, but when they go up against a team like Kentucky, they were able to lean on their front court. And those pieces that came in, Watson was a problem. EK, I think that's how you say his name, was a problem as well. Like, they got guys in those spots. And when it all fits, Caleb Love is another one from transferring from Carolina. Looked like he was going to be down and out, went to Arizona and leading them in scoring. And that's one of the best teams in the nation. So it's always that one piece that can get you over the hump. You just got to hope your scouting department and these coaches have good connections, and they're going to talk to them truthfully when they talk to these coaches. Because some coaches you might hit up, I might call you, Callie, you might want this kid out your program. You might tell me anything. Like, yeah, I'm telling you, man, the new atmosphere, he might be good.
He's great.
Yeah, he'll be real good for you. I'm telling you. You get him out of there, like, oh, we got a scholarship ready to get somebody else in, but and it might not work to wherever he's going. So you got to trust them and this grassroots program. A lot of these kids understand when you got these new crop of coaches, they have connections back. So they can kind of rely on them and check with the AAU coaches, because that's one person that the kids are going to talk to, the AAU coaches and their trainers all the time. So it's going to be like, okay, let me check in with them, see if they really fit our system, and are they willing to sacrifice? I think that's the biggest thing.
Mm-hmm.
Slade, Vanderbilt is 6-17 and 1-9 in the Southeastern Conference going into tonight's game against Texas A&M at Memorial Gymnasium. Two of the worst shooting teams in the SEC. Aggies shooting 27% from three, even though it didn't look like it on Saturday, and Vanderbilt at 28%. Is the Jerry Stackhouse era already over here in Nashville, or can he do anything to save his job at this point?
If he's going to get a new crop of players in all of a sudden, he can most definitely save it. But if you got to go out there with these same guys, man, and there's no knock to them, you're just not as talented or not as big in the front court as these teams you're taking on in the SEC. And a lot of that to me is not because of Stackhouse. A lot of that is because that wallet got to get opened up, and you got to be able to get those. You got to get kids to qualify, man. Like, the portal's wide open for everybody. You know, Vanderbilt players ain't going to have no problem transferring somewhere else and being eligible. I promise you that. They're going to qualify immediately. They're probably going to boast to the GPA. You know what I'm saying?
Three of them did last season to teams that are contending for NCAA tournament
Come on,
spots.
man. It's like, come on in. So I think a little bit of it is that. I think the injuries hurt him. Do I hope he got another shot? I hope he got another shot, and I hope they open up the NIL for him and really let people dive into it, because I do think he's a really good coach, and you got to get guys that want to play for you and stay healthy.
Can I ask you this in all respect to Dr. Candace Lee's story and Vanderbilt also?
Yeah.
Is it fair to say they're not going to be able to take sports serious? The Big Five, okay, or the Big Three.
Mm-hmm.
Baseball is fine because that's a different world. They have to earn scholarships through grades first, right? With baseball, because it's not enough money. But as far as football and basketball concerned, can you say Vandy's taking it serious if they don't either make exceptions, change enrollment? Can you say that in the SEC if they're not competing? Like, if they don't make those changes?
I don't think you can, as much as they may be bending to be taken seriously in their world, yes, that probably works. But the outside, this is SEC rounding about. You know, they circling the wagons on you, and they looking on the inside like, oh, yeah, this is what y'all going to present? No, you cannot be taken seriously. Not to the outside world.
Not to the outside.
No, you can't, man. And I think they're trying to make strides, but it's going to take more, man, because one thing everybody else in the SEC is not doing, they're not standing still.
That's it.
And waiting on you to be like, okay, all right, everybody stop. Let them catch up real quick.
Yep.
Man, they still going because they're competing with everybody, Ohio States and all these other. Like, come on, man.
You got Texas and Oklahoma.
You feel what I'm saying?
In.
Like, and why would we stop then?
And the only reason I bring it up because integrity is one hell of a thing.
It's serious.
But winning though.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Winning matters a little bit more.
I think it can be done though without diminishing your integrity or putting it down. You know, but you gotta be willing to evolve. It's not the old game of, hey, man, we really love to come here. We're gonna,
and this degree is gonna pay benefits.
This is gonna be, and it is. But in these sports,
but that ain't always true either.
No, it ain't.
I know a lot of dudes that went to college and got big time degrees.
Very true.
That you don't see the benefit of that degree.
Very true. Very true. You think you start to see them coming around in women's basketball again.
Yeah.
Shea Ralph's doing a terrific job, but she's done that with Jordan Cambridge, who's a 6-year senior in a sense. You know what I'm saying? So what happens when she leaves? Do they have a drop off, or like you continue to keep going? It's gonna be interesting, man. Nobody's waiting on them.
I said I wasn't jumping on the soapbox of Vandy no more.
That's all right.
No, I'm not. But this is in your city though. Like you know what I'm saying. You got an SEC school in your city with a lot of rich history, and you know what can be done. You know what's backing
you've
them.
seen basketball when it was in its prime,
and that's even more so than football. Like football's always been all right, 2-3 years. All right,
but you knew about Vanderbilt basketball. I knew about it on the West Coast.
It was always gonna be though.
Yeah,
it was always gonna be though.
There was never a time where opposing fan bases would take over Memorial Gym in the way they take over Vanderbilt football.
That's embarrassing.
Because even when they have been down, Tennessee and Kentucky would bring good crowds into Memorial Gym. It was never over 50%.
Yeah.
And I don't blame Vanderbilt fans. Their team isn't good.
Yep.
Why would you go watch the team down the road who you hate beat you by 20 when you don't have to? And nothing speaks more than empty seats to administration. And I think it's telling a pretty loud story at the moment, unfortunately, for Jerry Stackhouse, who I think is a good coach.
That's the worst part, is spilling over into basketball.
Right.
Like you get expected in football, LSU come over, they traveling. I mean, so you got a week to prepare, and it's a weekend game. It's not supposed to happen during the week when you're playing these teams in basketball.
Coming up, Ron Slay in studio with us talks a little bit about Vegas, how Vegas was as a Super Bowl city, and who the most interesting interview was that you guys had on 3HL. Give you a couple minutes to think about it. Coming up next.
It's Ramon Foster for Hiller Plumbing, Heating, Cooling, and Electric. I'm here to tell you first and foremost, if you need any of those things done around your house, whether that be your plumbing, heating, cooling, or electrical, go to happyhiller.com. But it's also February, and that means love's in the air also. You can find your perfect match this month with Hiller, or you can get a free UV light when you purchase a select new HVAC system for your home, or free whole home surge protection when you buy a new whole home generator, or simply get 50% off of Diskeller when you buy a new tankless water heater. You'll never be more in love with your home than having it serviced or work done by Hiller Plumbing, Heating, or Electrical. Simply reach out to the folks that I trust at happyhiller.com.
Wrapping up the show on RKW, brewed by 8th and Roast. The breaking news within the hour is that there is no news from Greenville, Tennessee, about the NCAA against Tennessee and Virginia. Austin Price of VolQuest, who was with us earlier this morning, writes on Twitter, 33 minutes ago, both the NCAA and the Tennessee AG have stated their case, and now the waiting on a ruling from Judge Corker begins. I'm certainly no legal expert, Austin Price writes, but the NCAA seemed to fumble their response about whether prospective student athletes can engage in talks ahead of a decision. And that was 30 minutes ago. As Ron Slade joins us in studio, as he does every Tuesday here on the show.
Jim.
Slade, what conversation stands out as one of your favorites? I want to ask you to pick one favorite, unless you have one favorite, from Super Bowl Radio Row this year.
Always Kevin Harlan.
The best.
Kevin Harlan is always good to hear. From who else? What's Coach Loxley?
Mike Loxley at Maryland.
He had a real good conversation talking about the Black Coaches Association that I hope I'm saying it right. That he started and his influence from John Thompson. Yeah. Like that was dope to hear. Who else?
You had so many.
It was so many.
Ross Tucker was.
Ross Tucker was good.
Dude, I was yelling at the TV when him and Don were kind of going back and forth. I'm like, no, Dillard was Vrabel's guy.
And you know what the funny thing is? Like listening to, you should have heard it off air. Like it was the
really?
conversation off air with him was even as good as the one on there.
That's
it was
great.
Yeah, Ross Tucker was real good. Blandino, the official, his was solid just to get a official's perspective of, you know what I mean, like how games have been officiated. Do they think they're doing a good job? And he has some good points. But I'm trying to think who else, man. We had some good ones.
What was Annie Ager like?
She was cool.
Was
really
she?
Cool. Yeah. She was really cool. Good energy. Yeah. I expected her. I wanted to, like, I had some questions for us. Like, I wanted her to do some more things with other comedians. Like, what's our guy, Josh Manusco, or how do you say his name?
Mancuso?
Yeah, Josh Mancuso.
I threw an N in there.
He's awesome.
It's like Ramon put an S on the end of Sonic.
Or Kroger.
It's
Or Samuel.
It's good though. It's like you saw these, how tedious it is for them to get it right, and they're perfectionists. You know what I'm saying? The hour she says she wakes up like 2, 3 in the morning. Yeah.
Wow.
To try to get it out before 12. It's wow.
Dang.
Like, it's serious. So that was pretty dope. Cam walking around, Cam is humongous, man.
Newton.
That's a big old dude to be playing quarterback Newton with the little Alice in Wonderland hat on. Like,
so was the bag he got from Auburn.
Yeah. I mean, hey, that went to the church, Will.
It's Cam Newton?
It went to the church. But that was good. It was cool. It was cool, man. Good energy. Mm-hmm. I thought Vegas should have it on a rotation. They should have the Super Bowl on rotation every 4 years. Like, it's that good because the fanfare seemed like it was a great meeting spot for everyone. It wasn't crowded, but it was a whole lot of people, but everybody wasn't on top of each other.
Sure.
So that made it good. It was plenty parties to go to if you wanted to party. If you wanted to go back and sleep, you had time to do that too. So it was dope, man. It was dope. It cost a little something, but it was a real good experience, though. Real good experience. I had a great time. Great time, man.
What price was paid at them tables, though?
Oh,
nice price.
Oh, wait!
Nice price.
You saw Cam Newton at the tables, didn't you? Or he was walking by? Okay.
Don
He
did
was at the crap tables. Yeah,
Flim Fam Bim Bam, whatever it is.
Yeah, War Damn Eagle Cry. Yeah,
Kick him in the butt, Big Blue.
Yeah.
Woo.
So that was cool. That was cool. It was, and that's the thing, man. Like Summer League, when you go out there, like I always say, man, if you can take your kids, because you're gonna run into every celebrity star that it is at these type of events. You know what I mean? If you big basketball, Summer League is a place to go to see guys walking around without security and not tripping. That was the same thing with Super Bowl. Like we ran into J.R. Smith. Who else? Wallow and Gilly, who got $1 million worth of $1 million worth of game podcast. Yeah, podcast. Comedians left and right, entertainers. It was. Man, it was dope. And nobody's bothered. I mean, it's a big party. You know what I mean? Everybody cool with coming up to him talking. It's good to see. It was good to see. Good energy.
What is the worst and best Super Bowl city you visited for Radio Row now?
Well, I've only been to 3, L.A., Phoenix, and Vegas. If I had to rank them, it would probably be L.A. was still close to COVID, so that's a tough one to rate.
I can speak to that one too. It was so spread out.
Yeah, it was so spread out. I would go Vegas then Phoenix.
Okay,
you know what I'm saying? Just because you didn't have to deal with the COVID restrictions and things of that nature.
L.A. didn't even know the Super Bowl was going on.
No, there's so much going on in L.A. too.
Right,
like it's different. That's why I thought Vegas was perfect. Yeah. Like, you know what I mean? You could feel the energy.
You could.
Super Bowl was everywhere.
Yeah.
Really?
It's really cool.
Everywhere. It was, in cabs. It was some wild stuff, man. It's some wild stuff, man.
Ron Slay, who had no fun at all last week with 3HL in Vegas. You hear him 3 to 6 weekdays here on the Zone, and you see him in some sharp-looking suits on SEC Network.
Yeah, he's dope.
Yeah.
Boy,
Stepping it up.
Coming down with the suit
Man,
game.
my guy, man. Shout out to Street, man. John Street, man. They take care of the guy over there, man. VFLs.
Appreciate Ron Slay. Appreciate Austin Price for joining us this morning. Coming up tomorrow, SEC Network's Dane Bradshaw, Titans Radio's Rhett Bryan, and you.
Is Dane coming in or Dane on phone?
He's on the phone.
He on the phone.
Oh, okay.
We'll tell him you said what's up.
I
got excited.
I'll come in. I'll pull up with my dog, man.
Right?
You know what I mean?
Back at it tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. Ramon Foster, send us home.
You got to remember, good people, at all times, your Twitter fingers and mic is always hot.